It is now 7 o'clock. I'll call to order the Victorville City Council meeting, and concurrently we will open the Redevelopment Agency, the Water District, the Rail Authority, the Airport Authority, the Library, and the Water District agendas. They will all be opened simultaneously, and they will run concurrently. The custom and habit of this council is we begin every meeting first with an invocation. Tonight, that invocation will be given by Elder Tom Knox, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by our Chief of Police, Captain Mark Taylor. May we raise?
Our Heavenly Father, as we gather this night for this chamber meeting, we acknowledge the blessing it is to be citizens of this great land of the United States of America, the state of California, and most importantly, citizens of Victorville, the city of Victorville. We appreciate all those who serve in this chamber as our leaders, their assistants, those who defend and care for our community, firefighters and police and other auxiliaries that look over and watch over our citizens. We ask thy care to watch over the proceedings of this meeting, that thou bless this land and this community. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Before we start with the pledge, I will let Mark Taylor go off duty. I understand that our Girl Scout troop did arrive, and they will come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, I want you to know that you bring a great dimension to these meetings, and for young people to be involved in something as wholesome as scouting, whether it's Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, you're to be commended for involving yourself in things that will not only be fun, but they will help build strength and character well into the future. My wife was a Girl Scout leader, and she 10 years the president of the San Gorgonio Girl Scout Council, and both of my daughters were and still are Girl Scouts. So Girl Scouts, along with Boy Scouts, of which I was one, occupy a very fond spot with me. But it's important that you be here, and we welcome you anytime that you're available to lead us in the pledge. Thank you. I suspect with some degree of confidence that most of you are here for items that deal with agenda item 4 on the City Council agenda. Let me explain to you some housekeeping rules and how this process works in the city of Victorville. We conduct the business of the various entities that I identified: Redevelopment Agency, Rail Authority, Airport Authority, the Water District, the Library District first. Those agendas are relatively short. They tend to move very quickly, so we'll work through them in sequence until we get to the City Council, and then we will move into the public hearing process. Agenda item 1 on every agenda tonight, as always, is public comment. Public comment is that opportunity afforded by state statute for anyone who wishes to address the City Council in any issue that is within our area of responsibility or purview. You have 3 minutes. As a general rule, the Council does not respond to anything that comes up during public comment. The reason for that is probably pretty obvious. We have no idea what somebody may say or what somebody may ask, and so it would be virtually impossible to be in a position to respond. So what we do is we ask you to fill out one of these white cards. They're available in the foyer, and we ask that you pass these cards up to the city clerk. This will then give us the information we need if we are going to respond to you and tell you some information that we may be providing in response to what you say, or if we have to schedule your request for a subsequent council meeting, we will do that. But don't expect that the council will be generally responding in any way to public comment. Also, when you get to the city council agenda, there are scheduled public hearings. And we ask again that you fill out these cards if you intend to address the council on any of the noticed public hearing items, which is a little bit different than the public comment section. And again, we generally will take whatever you have to say. It becomes a part of the official record, and many times we will respond to comments that are made during public hearing items. The request, again, is that you keep it limited to 3 minutes. Also, we ask, in the interests of time and fairness for everybody, that you try hard not to be repetitive or duplicative. If somebody has said what you intended to say or conveyed the thought that was important to you, I think that it would be best for everybody if you could simply indicate that you agree with person X or person Y. It's a long agenda, and I'm sure all of you would like to get through it as quickly as we can. So if you can keep that in mind when you are prepared to speak. We have a stack of cards on agenda item number 4, and if you figure 3 minutes per card, we'll be on that issue probably for at least a couple of hours. That's only agenda item 4, so you can see that it could tend to be a very, very long night. Now, I just tell you that so you can all kind of prepare and get geared up. The first thing we're going to do, though, is have a very special presentation. The City of Victorville has been engaged in a program to honor our people in uniform serving in Iraq, Afghanistan, and elsewhere for that matter. It's called the Banner Program. You see the banners on the wall. The banners are on the light standards throughout the city. And tonight we have a very special presentation to be made. And although Councilman Cabriales usually handles the chore, because it was his idea, he originated it, he has laryngitis or worse. And so we've asked Councilman Rothschild, who also is a military veteran, having flown jets off of aircraft carrier decks during the Vietnam War. So I will turn this part of the meeting over to Councilman Rothschild.
This is really one of our projects that Rudy started, and we're so proud of it, and it's almost made national recognition. And so many other communities have joined in across the country in spite of some of the bad press you see. To have your local government stand up in spite of what happens sometimes at the national level is just incredibly personal, and it's important to the families that live here and for all of us together. So with that, I'd like to go through our presentations. I believe we have 2 this evening here. The first one, Kevin Marlowe, he's in the Army second tour in Iraq, and his wife, Crystal, will be accepting the replica of this one. And by the way, what we do is we put the banners up. You'll see them around town, and then when they come back from their tour, we ask to have the banner brought back, and then when they go back out again, they bring it back, and we repost it up. So we have the banner each time that they go out, and we've had businesses in the community that contribute to this. Each banner, it costs about $250. So you can see there's quite a participation in our community just in putting the banners up and keeping them up whenever they redeploy, as this gentleman has done.
Here tonight to accept this, but he's in Dallas. He'll be home tomorrow to Victorville for his members, the people of it. Thank you.
The other banner that we have is actually one of our employees herself, Dean Licardopoulos. How'd I do? Okay. He's going to the United States Navy, and my branch of the service here. And who do we have for that one? Blackberry. Oh, Chris. Oh, great. Here, you're going to have to receive this in behalf.
I just wanted to let you know that the program is a fantastic program. Putting these banners up for our men in service is absolutely a wonderful thing that our city is doing, and it makes us very proud. Dean actually works for the city, and he works for me in the Information Services Department. Because of a technicality, the way the program currently works, Dean wasn't really able to take advantage of the program as it's written currently. His fellow employees all decided that we needed to put him. We need to get a banner up for him. So we all chipped in. Actually, they all chipped in, and his fellow employees decided that we were going to pay for and make sure that he got a banner. So this is going to go in the Information Services Department, and I get emails from Dean just about every other day. He's doing fine. He can't tell me where he's at, but he's telling me he's fine, and he listens to the council meetings on the web. So hi, Dean, and we're thinking of you. Come home safe.
While Councilman Rothschild is coming back up, I'm going to ask City Manager Roberts to share with the audience a little bit about the program that is very unique, and as far as we know, very few cities or other units of government have stepped up to the plate in terms of the men and women in uniform from our city. Mr. Roberts, would you describe what we're doing?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my honor. When the Iraq War began and reservists were being called up, we were approached by high-ranking members of the military asking that organizations, both public and private sector, retain a position so that when that reservist returned from active duty, they would have a job available to them. The city of Victorville went far above and beyond that, and to my knowledge is the only public corporation that has adopted this policy. Not only does the city of Victorville retain a job for that person, but because reservists will see their pay drop from what they're currently making employment in the city of Victorville, and that could affect the family of that service person. The city of Victorville supplements the pay that that individual receives from the military while they are on active duty, such that that family doesn't have to financially suffer because their loved one is serving in our military. And that's a policy adopted by our city council, the one that I'm with.
I'm going to take the liberty of reorganizing the agenda just slightly. We have a whole lot of firefighters in our group, and most of them probably need to go work on the fire truck or wash the hose or do some such thing. So I'm going to take the liberty of inviting a presentation from Victorville's Fire Chief, Chief Holtquist, our quarterly update on the paramedic program. Chief.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Roberts, city staff, and members of the public, packed house. It's a perfect night for a presentation. Before I get started on this presentation, which is pretty exciting, it's hard to believe it's been over 90 days already, so this is your first quarterly report. We want to bring you up to speed on our paramedic program and some of the accomplishments we've made in the last 90 days. But first and foremost, let me make sure he's here. Brent Cannon. Brent Cannon, come here. This is a young man that former city of Victorville, now proudly a county fire team member. He didn't know I was going to do this to him, by the way, so he's probably thinking, oh my gosh, here we go again. And his captain's thinking, how am I ever going to get this guy in the fire engine now? His head's going to be about this big. Brent was recently honored on Friday in Sacramento. He received a California State Firefighters Association Valor Award for a rescue he made while off duty in the town of Apple Valley back in June. So Brett has received the state's highest honor, and he's a local firefighter here, so we're very proud of him, and I wanted to acknowledge that accomplishment right here in front of the council. So Brett Cannon. Don't you have a story about Joe's Crab Shack? Oh, okay. That's another meeting. With that, public safety has always been a major component to the vitality and well-being of a community. This council, every member of this council, has always stood on a platform of public safety, whether that be for law enforcement or for the fire service, of being a high priority in the city of Victorville. The council has shown their commitment to public safety by implementing a life-saving fire department-based paramedic program that was effective July 5th of this year. Before July 5th, the city had an excellent fire department. As former Fire Chief Rudy Cabral is going to attest, we had a badge presentation event earlier today that was well attended, and thank you for all of you being there, and thank you for coordinating that. Had an excellent fire department, but the one thing that was missing was the fact that they did not provide advanced life support paramedic services to the community. And probably the only fire department that didn't in terms of this regionalized Southern California area. With the implementation of the paramedic program on July 5th, an immediate dramatic improvement to the care being delivered to the community has been realized. Your decision, all of you, your decision has already positively affected the lives of several individuals in this city, as you're going to see tonight. So the fact that this program has been implemented, you have dramatically improved the lives of several of the citizens, as you're going to see. So job well done. We appreciate your support. We look forward to a lot of successful years here in the city, and working together is going to make it happen. So we appreciate it. So tonight what we'd like to do is present a brief overview of your fire department-based paramedic program with a few accomplishments. We'll keep it brief, but I think it's important that we let you see exactly what's going on out there. And it's nice that we have a packed house so they'll be able to see too. With that, I'm going to invite my colleague, Battalion Chief Gary Bush. And one last thing, I don't want to just recognize Brent, but these are the guys that I'm here for, and I just want you to know. I didn't invite them here, believe it or not. They're actually here because they want to participate, and they're here to support us. So thank you guys, I appreciate that. And stay out of their way if they get a call, because I'm telling you, it's going to be a Ingrid, I know you're here somewhere too, but I'll leave you alone. Okay, with that, Battalion Chief Gary Bush.
Thanks, Chief. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Two things make my job a pleasure coming to work every day, and it is the one being the privilege of getting to manage the city's paramedic program, and two, as Chief Holquist just said, it's really the men on the back row in uniform. These are absolutely the best in Southern California, and I love watching them do what they do. And with that, it is my pleasure to provide to you a performance report on the services that have been provided here in the city in the last 3 months. So each of you have a copy of this report in front of you. I'll reference that report, but we'll also have a short little PowerPoint presentation for you to follow along with. The report's basically broken down into 5 sections for you. Section 1 is an executive summary, a narrative of where we've been over the last 3 months, where we were before. So that's available to you at your pleasure to read. Section 2 starts with really where we were before July 5th. These are the basic life support services that were provided in the city by our firefighter EMTs. And as Chief Holquist mentioned prior to the paramedic program, the one drawback is that these services that you see there represent a limited capability to mitigate a medical emergency because they're operating at a basic life support level. In contrast, at 8 o'clock on July 5th, we implemented paramedic services in the city of Victorville, and now we provide advanced life support services that you see run an entire gamut, whether it's a cardiac, medical, or trauma emergency. We are able to provide the most latest cutting-edge services on the streets. Section 3 of your report really tells the story of just how busy we are here in the city. Just in the last 3 months, we had almost 2,500 people that experienced a medical emergency of one type or another. And I'll share a couple stories tonight of some positive outcomes out of those 2,500. So in just about a 3-month period, 2,500 people. We'll go on this year as a full calendar year period, running about 12,000 calls, and 78% of those will represent medical emergencies. 78% of those 12,000. Those numbers that you see in front of you also represent traffic collisions, people trapped in vehicles as a result of traffic collisions, the entire gamut of anything that generates a medical emergency. We are in a time-sensitive business, so we wanted to provide to you a response time performance report of how quickly we are able to get firefighter paramedics to a person who's impacted with a medical emergency. We have the city broken down into 5 service districts, downtown, the central city of the area, the southern area of the city. As I said, medical emergencies are very time sensitive. For example, a patient in cardiac arrest needs to have a paramedic in front of them in 7 to 8 minutes in order to have a positive outcome. As you can see by that number, we're able to reach that target most of the time and in most areas of the city. One thing in your report, too, that we do mention, we looked at response time performance overall in the city, and because as the county fire department, we take a regional approach to anywhere we do business. On October 1st, we saw an opportunity to improve some response time performance in the southeast corner of the city. So in conjunction with our County Fire Station 22 adjacent to Victor Valley College, we have a paramedic engine company running out of there, and they're now providing improved response time performance to areas such as Sterling Inn, the Spring Valley Ridge housing tract, and of course Victor Valley College itself, which, as we all know, whenever you look at that parking lot, lots of people there, student, faculty, there day and night. So we're going to see a very good improvement in response time performance in that area of the city. Another thing that we do need to discuss is prior to July 5th, the city relied on the private ambulance transport provider to serve in a first responder role. Your report will outline in Section 4 a number of instances where those ambulances were not immediately available to respond to those emergencies. And I've listed some examples of why that occurs, such things as when that ambulance is transporting a patient, they're tied up in that transport, whereas the paramedic engine companies are immediately available at the termination of that call and ready for the next emergency. We do experience a considerable amount of bed delay issues up here in the high desert. It's busy. We have a lot of population up here, a lot of patients competing for the space in those emergency rooms. So oftentimes those ambulances are arriving, they hit a bed delay, they're waiting for an open bed to open up. In the meantime, paramedic engine company is available for response. And we've had some instances where not all of the ambulances assigned here in the city or in the Victor Valley are staffed and available for response. So when we do talk about critical time issues, response time issues, that type of thing, the good news is that you have available firefighter paramedics in the city ready to respond at all times. Now, Section 5, here comes the best news. I want to share with you, and in your report in Section 5, there are several incidents that just really represents a fraction of the positive outcomes that we've seen, but I want to especially highlight 3 before you tonight as a result of our firefighters and firefighter paramedics working together really to create these positive outcomes for our patients. The first one happened just 6 days after the start of the program, July 11th. We had a individual working on the roof of a business downtown and experienced a medical emergency while on that roof. Just goes to show you that medical emergencies can happen anywhere, and in this case it happened on the roof of a business. In this case, our firefighters and firefighter paramedics were able to access that patient on the roof, assess, treat, stabilize on the roof, bring them down, and get them ready for transport to a hospital. Second one, pretty horrendous accident. We had a wrong-way motorist on the I-15 freeway. Just that word in itself starts to describe what can happen there. As a result, we had 4 patients injured, 3 critically, and one of those critical injuries, injured persons, were trapped in a vehicle. Pretty horrendous incident. Because of the depth of the program, we were able to respond 3 paramedic engine companies, putting in a total of 9 firefighters combined on that incident. And picture yourself in that car for a minute, trapped. Next thing you know, and we call this our full service call. This is all wheels spinning here. Firefighter paramedic crawls into that vehicle next to you, starts life-saving care while the firefighters are working the jaws of life, getting you out of that vehicle. Next thing you know, you're being loaded into a helicopter. Next thing you know, you're at a trauma center getting the appropriate care. That was the case that night on the freeway, and we were able to stabilize all those patients, get them to the proper facility, in the midst of all the hazards going on, people trapped in those vehicles, that type of thing. Those cumulative efforts equal survival, and I've seen that on the streets many, many times, everybody working together. The third one I wanted to say really is the best for last story. This was a resident that lives near the Mall of Victor Valley, experienced a cardiac emergency in his home. When our firefighter paramedics arrived, the patient presented in what we would call a life-threatening cardiac rhythm. I'm about to show you what that actually looked like and give you an idea of the positive outcome that occurred there. In the very back of your report, I gave you a pullout of how this patient looked to us. If you remember back in July up here on the table, we showed you the cardiac monitor that we use, the ability to look at a patient's heart and see exactly what's going on. So as we take a look at how this patient presented, here it was. Bottom line, when you look at the top portion of that EKG strip, which I'll show the audience is right here, bottom line, that's what imminent death looks like. If that's not treated within minutes, the outcome is not favorable for that patient. The bottom strip represents what life looks like. So normal rhythm there, life-threatening rhythm at the top. The next slide then is a continuation of that same patient. Here that patient was, life-threatening rhythm, now losing consciousness in his home. I highlighted for you on your report, your copy of that EKG strip, and I'll show the audience. Right here was the life-saving moment. That's when our firefighter paramedics were able to shock that patient's heart, and you can see the result. Back into a nice, normal rhythm. That patient regained consciousness, was able to talk to his family members while still in the house. Positive outcome. So we really appreciate, again, the support that the council provided to the residents of the city, those that live and work, travel through this city. I think just these examples, in addition to the ones that I've included in your report, some additional ones, really clearly tell the story of why this program is so vital to our community. And with that, I am very glad to answer any questions you may have.
Questions or comments from members of the council? And I have a note from the city clerk. Apparently she's had some trouble from time to time hearing us. Oh, whomever. They need us to speak into the microphones. Especially you, Rudy, because of your laryngitis.
Haven't said anything.
Yet. Questions or comments from members of the council?
So I don't have any questions. I have a couple comments. First of all, thank you. Great presentation. I'm glad you come back to do this. I want to thank the firefighters. They do a great job out here. They always have.
Yes.
Continue to do so. You guys, I really want to thank you. This is exactly the reason that I pushed for the paramedic program. When I look at the guy on the roof, private ambulance can't get on the roof. They're not going to take a ladder. They're not trained to do it. That's why we have the services. That's why you have a fire department that's had paramedics on it, can do all this stuff. They can do the confined space rescues and get in that car and do the life-saving stuff. You don't get that from the private company. I'm not knocking the private companies. They're good companies. They're out there doing their job. But that's what these guys are trained for. They're trained for the tough job to do, and they're doing that tough job. And this is why we have paramedics in this city now that we should have had many years ago. We just didn't do it, and it's shame on us. These are saving lives, and I run across these strips every day, but the problem with my job, the strip is flat. So that's why we need you guys here, because we need to save lives, and that's what the paramedics are for. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Just a question. I notice your response time has improved since July. What are you doing to improve that response time?
One of it really was the improvement in that area in the southeast corner. And really, our guys are doing a great job. The nice thing that is happening in conjunction with the private ambulance provider is that we're forming a patient care team now with 2 paramedics, 1 firefighter, one from the private ambulance, and 3 EMTs. So we're really able to speed up the treatment time that it takes and stabilize those patients faster and get them dispositioned to a hospital. So we're really seeing that as a huge benefit of just any call, it's 5 on 1, 5 care providers, 1 patient. Very nice ratio.
Station 315 under construction, when that comes online, will we see more improvements in the response?
Absolutely, yeah. It'll take currently Station 313's district, which is pretty large and busy, and really reduce that down with 2 fire stations providing that service. Absolutely.
Other questions or comments? Well, I just want to say on behalf of the 107,000 people that you serve, when we were going through the analysis, trying to make a decision of what to do, how best to do it, your department made certain promises and commitments to the council and ultimately to the citizens of Victorville. You've kept those promises. The citizens of Victorville are served well by your department and by the men and women that put their lives on the line whenever that bell goes off. And from an official standpoint, and looking back at all of the agony we went through to get to that July 4th or July date when we implemented the transition, I think it was well worth it. We've learned a lot. And I am pleased at how many of the original Victorville Fire Department personnel have told me, and they've told other members of this council, that they were welcomed into the county department. They were well received and well treated, and that they feel good about the transition. And that means a lot to the 5 of us sitting up here. So thank you to the command structure of the department and to our fire chief, who responsible on a daily basis. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the firemen are welcome to stay if they have nothing better to do, but we will not be offended if you decide to go on to other things. And while they're doing that, we have one more public presentation. It deals with Victorville's recycling program. I'd ask Dana Armstrong to come up. Requires the municipality to reduce time frames to be met, fines to be paid if we don't do it in conformity with state law. Victorville, through our contractor, Vertec, has a very, very aggressive program dealing with the recyclables. Dana is the employee that is tasked with not only trying to ensure we meet the goals, but doing it in such a way we don't have to pay any fines. She has been extraordinarily good in that job. I will not read the entire proclamation. I'll just read the last part. Victorville recycles week in the city of Victorville, and we urge all citizens, schools, civic organizations, and businesses within Victorville to actively participate in the city's recycling programs and consider other ways to reduce waste and save resources during this week and throughout the year. So I'll present the proclamation to Dana, and I'm going to put her on the spot and ask her to tell the audience a little bit about what she and her department are doing and what's going on through the recycling. Timon, here's a loud microphone.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the rest of the council members for considering this proclamation. We are proclaiming the week of November, starting November 3rd, as Victorville Recycles Week. We're doing this because November 15th nationwide is America Recycles Day, and we thought we wanted to do something locally to call attention to our local programs. So there's two main things that we're focusing on this year. This is actually the second year that we've had a week, Victorville Recycles Week. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to have an open house at our materials recovery facility on Saturday, November 1st. If any of you have ever wondered, and I hope you've wondered, but maybe you haven't, but if you ever have wondered what happens to the stuff that you put in the blue can, this is your opportunity to see. The Victor Valley Materials Recovery Facility over on Abbey Lane is where all that material goes. You can see it in operation. You can see it sorting about 120 tons a day of commingled recyclables. In addition to being open and operating, we'll be giving tours, we'll have displays. We also are going to be doing a free mulch and compost giveaway sponsored by Victorville Disposal. We will also be doing our last Shred Fest of the year, so if you have any confidential documents you want to come down and give them to us, we'll shred them right in front of you and recycle it. The other thing that we're doing during Victorville Recycles Week, and I think this is even more exciting than our open house, is that we've been working with the schools in the city of Victorville. My colleague, Ro Ratliff, I have to give her 99.9% of the credit. She's been going out, working with the school districts. We have 26 of the 35 schools in the city signed up to participate in some way, shape, or form. We have over 2,000 students scheduled to take tours of our recycling facility during the months of October and November. We couldn't fit it all into 1 week, so we thought we would spread it out a bit. We also have planned to give in-class presentations to over 1,400 students during the next month. So we're very excited about that. We're also sponsoring a contest. Students can participate in a poster contest, a recycled sculpture contest. And we've just started to hear from some of the schools what their projects are going to be. Just a couple that I think sound like a lot of fun. Silverado High School is planning to make a float from recyclable materials for their homecoming week, and so I'm very anxious to see what that looks like. And Cobalt Middle School is participating in our upcoming community cleanup this coming Saturday. They'll be cleaning up around their school, and they've also created a recycling club. So we have a lot of really wonderful things going on with the schools, and as a final thing that I want to say, I just want to encourage all of you in the audience to take another look at that blue can, make sure that you're using it to its full capacity. Anything you put in the blue can, good stuff comes out of it. It gets returned back into our economy. When you put recyclable materials in the green trash can, it costs the city and ultimately you as ratepayers to dispose of that material. It goes to the landfill, it's buried, it's covered with dirt, and that's the end of it. I think it is literally, we call it solid waste, and when it goes to the landfill, it literally is a waste. It's a wasted opportunity and wasted resources. So that's all I have to say. Again, I encourage you all to come out to the MRF this on Saturday, November 1st. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dana.
Just one little more tidbit as we pick up that broken microphone. That all the political signs out there that we have are 100% recyclable, whether it's the rebar, the 4x8s, the paper, everything. So all of them should be going to the MRF, not out to the dump, just to let all you politicians, myself included. So within 3 days, you ought to see the valley magically cleaned up again after the election, and it all should be at the MRF.
Okay, we are now going to go to agenda item 1 on each of the agendas, be it the library, the water, the redevelopment agency, the rail authority, the airport authority. Agenda item number 1, and that's the public comment section. Now, if you're here on an agenda item later on, and I think most of you are here for agenda item 4 on the city council agenda, it's your call whether you want to speak under public comment or whether you want to wait and speak when we open the public hearing on Agenda Item 4, so that your comments will become a part of the official record. But that's a decision that you have to make. So I'm going to call the cards that I have received wishing to speak just under public comment. And I'm going to call them in the order that they were given to me. The first card is Gary Douglas. Mr. Douglas.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members, city staff. Tonight I would like to speak on an issue first, transparency. I understand that the city manager, as well as you, Mr. Mayor, were in New York, and we're wondering if you were going to disclose to us what city business we may have been on. I don't expect you to answer, but the question has been asked. Second, an FPPC violation has been filed on the city of Victorville regarding the flyers that we have received from the city of Victorville regarding issues over the crime prevention. Unfortunately, these were mailed to city voters, not homeowners. I find it very odd that I never received my water warning about the rate increase, and it was quoted by city staff that my name shows up as an owner and somebody in Hesperia. I bought my home in November. I'm concerned that I can receive a political flyer, not political flyer from my city during the heat of a campaign. I find it odd. I find it distasteful. Again, another issue that I would like to address that is not on the agenda is the Dr. Pepper Snapple plant that tomorrow you will be attending a private groundbreaking ceremony. We are the citizens of Victorville. We are the folks that stood behind you while you made these decisions, whether we agree or disagree. For this to be a private event is unacceptable. And number two, how do we tell our citizens that we're breaking ground on a project that faces the Planning Commission that same evening for approval? I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Douglas, I'm going to break with the usual protocol, and I'm going to answer each of your 3 points. Well, I'm going to answer 2 of them, and I'm going to have the city attorney respond to the third one. Mr. Roberts and I were in New York dealing with issues on Wall Street that directly affect the financial well-being of this city. And I'm not going to tell you the details of the negotiations and the discussions, but I will tell you that it was a trip that Mr. Roberts and I left at 1:30 in the afternoon, arrived in New York at 9 o'clock at night, had our first meeting on Wall Street at 8 in the morning, and caught a flight out in the afternoon to come back. And if you think that is fun, if you think that that is enjoyable, I invite you to tag along anytime you want to. Second point I want to make is that we have made mailers that have gone out to citizens of Victorville for years. It's not something that's new. It's not something that has just been conjured up. And the reason that we have to do those kinds of mailers is so that we can better communicate with the citizens of Victorville. There has been criticism for years that we, as a city, do not get enough information out to the community at large, that we have an obligation to communicate with them. And so we have for years have had mail pieces to the citizens of the city of Victorville. That's the reason for it. It has nothing to do with the insinuations that you make. And lastly, with regard to the Dr. Schweppes Dr. Pepper matter, I will defer that to the city attorney so that he can directly comment.
Mayor Caldwell, the Dr. Pepper Snapple transaction was previously approved by the redevelopment agency, and in fact there are signed and executed agreements pertaining to that transaction. Those documents require Planning Commission approval of a site plan, which just about every transaction in the city requires. We basically negotiate deals. We know what the concept of the development is, and then they are required to get all of the approvals. If for some reason the Planning Commission decides not to accept the proposed site plan, which has been already drafted and prepared in accordance with the terms of the agreement, fully negotiated and signed, then the Planning Commission has the ability to defer it and continue it and wait till Dr. Pepper gets a site plan that is appropriate. They have an agreement where they will build a project in the city of Victorville, and so we believe it's going to occur sooner or later.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I make one more comment
No,
since you
your 3 minutes
responded
are-
to me?
Your 3 minutes are gone.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Matt Carroll.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. I would like to introduce myself briefly. I'm a citizen here in Victorville and a college student. I want to thank the city for its many efforts recently to rid our city of gang members and gang crime. But I would also like to chide the city that there's a lot more to be done in the areas of prevention. For starters, one of the most glaring problems that I see in the city is we only have one public library, and it serves over 100,000 people. It's inadequate. It needs more funding. We need more libraries distributed throughout the city. That's what I have to say.
Thank you. Dorothy Miller.
Hello, Mayor and Council members. My name is Dorothy Miller. The three incumbents must be scared, as their signs are littering the whole city on light poles, in Hesperia, and other signs. I pray we get a change, and when Mr. Mayor's 2 years is up, I pray he will go, as his subsidized golf course, his golf club, or house. The city's bought most of Old Town property, the airport, and the power plant now. We the people need somebody to look after us. The people like 200 signatures to get eucalyptus through. Well, first we had the money to do it this year. Now we don't have the money to do it this year. Now we're going to sit and wait when the fire station on Eucalyptus is built and finished. If Eucalyptus is not through to the signal on 395, if there's a fire on the west side, you can't get the fire truck over there. It has to go down to Sycamore and across and over to 395. I think this is ridiculous. I think the city should look at what's going on here and pay attention to the people, not their clubhouse, their airport, their power plants, that kind of things. We need to look at what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Norm Miller.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Norman Miller with the Golden Triangle Ad Hoc Committee. And as you know, we've been here to a few of your meetings. Matter of fact, I think I've been here more than any one of you individual people have, because you take vacations in that. We don't. But what I want to say tonight is I've been following your rules. I fill out these cards every time I want to talk. And I filled it out a couple meetings ago when, as my wife mentioned, we had an article about Eucalyptus Street, presented you with a petition of over 200 signatures of people in the Golden Triangle that want to get the road through to the signal at Eucalyptus and 395, and I haven't heard a word, but I filled the card out. But nobody's gotten back to me as far as what's happening with that. As my wife mentioned, it was in the budget last year, as we understand. It was taken out, and I don't know why, but I think that was a very poor decision for the people in our area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Richard Gleason.
Hello, Richard Gleason. Hi, guys. I got to touch on the flyers. The thing is on October 15th, the city put out an ad in the Daily Press. There's a full-page ad saying everything that the city has done. And then on October 18th, I got one of these flyers in the mail. And these are only going out to registered voters, which is fine, whatever. But today, I got the same flyer. The only thing that's different is Mr. Roberts' statement isn't in there. I just want to know why the city is putting out the same information again and again at a cost of probably about $16,000 to send these out to the voters. If it's the same stuff, why are we doing it? And I know you already addressed the fact that that you do it all the time, but these are getting really close to the election, and I don't know if that's what it is, but it does look suspicious. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gleason. Randall Atwood.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Randall Atwood. I come before you tonight in regards to my water bill. We all know that the city voted recently to take over the water company, and since then my bill has been erratic. I am moving this weekend, and the water district is now asking me to pay almost $500 to bring my bill to current. My next bill is not due until November 13th. You know, I am a single income father of two, and I get paid on a weekly basis. There's no way I can come up with this in order to get my water transferred from one residence to another. The account's going to stay the same name, same everything, but the water district will not transfer my current status to my new residence unless I pay this $448.49. I've already paid $180 this month. You know, since you took it over, I didn't get a bill in August, July, August, or September. My June bill was due or July bill was due in October. My August bill is now due in November. I'm moving on Saturday, and until I come up with $500, I have no water at my new residence. You know, how am I going to take care of my family?
All right, Mr. Atwood, Reggie Lamson, who is the department head, the senior staff member responsible for our water department, is in the audience. I will ask him to meet you just outside the foyer so he can at least get some basic information from you and get to work on trying to resolve this for you tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Reggie, where are you? There he is. If you'll meet Mr. Atwood outside and have a chat with him about his water bill. Andy Silva.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I represent Supervisor Brad Mitzelfeld, who represents the entire High Desert area. He is the governor's appointee to the California Seismic Safety Commission, and he is co-chairman of the Great Southern California Shakeout Campaign. If you haven't heard of the Shakeout yet, it will be the largest earthquake disaster drill in the country ever. The scenario that they're painting is the southern section of the San Andreas from the Salton Sea along the front of the San Bernardino Mountains to the Cajon Pass and out past Palmdale, rupturing. That's a very credible earthquake. It would be a magnitude 7.8. That section of the fault hasn't ruptured since 1680, so do the math. For the 1,000 years before that, it was on roughly a 150-year cycle. This will be a regional disaster, the likes of which we have never seen. And the purpose of the Shakeout campaign is to help folks get ready for this. So there is a ton of information at www.shakeout.org. There's a lot of information on how to get your families ready and how to prepare a disaster preparedness kit, which folks here should be used to anyway, since the Cajon Pass shuts down at least a couple of times a year for fires and snow and other things. I brought some flyers with some basic information on it. I put a stack of them in the back by the agendas, so if folks, as they leave, want to snag one, that would be great. If anybody needs more information or a speaker or something like that to your church or Boy Scout troop or whatever, if you would just call Supervisor Mitzelfeld's office, we can help you set that up. some of the these things, this scenario has been very carefully crafted by engineers and scientists. One of the scariest things for up here is that the Cajon Pass will be impassable. There'll be 12 to 15 feet of movement on that section of the pass. The freeway lane is 12 feet wide, so you won't be able to get up or down the Cajon Pass. And for all the commuters, it's really important to have a family disaster plan. So I just wanted to make that pitch real quick, let folks know the shakeout is coming up on November 13th. We will have an event up here on November 12th at Victor Valley College in the afternoon. There'll be displays by fire and emergency and community emergency response teams. There'll be some presentations with all kinds of cool information and videos about this particular disaster scenario. So just wanted to let folks know that that's coming up. And if you can be there on November 12th at Victor Valley College, that would be great. At the very least, pick up a flyer and talk to your churches and businesses and families about getting ready for this earthquake, which will happen someday. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That is all of the cards I have for public comment. I assume I have not overlooked a card. Does not appear that I have. So we will now go to our formal agendas. The first up is the Library Board of Trustees. Councilman Hunter is the council liaison. For that, I will turn it over to Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item is public comment, which we've already gone through. The second is presentation of revisions to the agenda. I don't believe we have any. Just one item I'll bring up, the gentleman that brought up the library issue. Just so you know, we are working on a brand new library here in town, preferably about a 40,000 square foot library. Will be probably in the Civic Center here, so you know that we are working on that. We will probably keep the library down in Old Town as an auxiliary library or a satellite library, but we are working on that library, and hopefully we can start on that pretty soon. That's all we have on the agenda, Mr. Mayor, so that concludes the library agenda.
We will go to the Rail Authority agenda. I'm not aware of any revisions or add-ons to this agenda. Then that concludes the Rail Authority agenda. I will go to the Airport Authority agenda. Again, I'm not aware of any revisions or add-ons to this agenda. There is item 3, which is a consent calendar.
For approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. May we vote? Clicker to work. Unanimous. That concludes the Airport Authority agenda. We will now go to the Redevelopment Agency agenda. We've taken care of item 1. Item 2, I'm not aware of any revisions or additions to this agenda. Then we'll go to item 3, which is a written communications. We're asked to consider adoption of proposed resolution number R08013, which, if adopted, would approve a professional services agreement between the Redevelopment Agency and the Inland Empire Small Business Development Center. Questions or comments from members of the Redevelopment Agency? Been moved and seconded. May we vote? Unanimous. I will ask the members of the council on behalf of the city clerk's office to not punch the buttons before the motion. Is that what it is that you want us to do?
Oh, to speak the motion. So it's verbal. We're just having a hard time hearing it in the microphone.
All right. Okay. Everybody understand?
You need to do both. Speak.
Please.
We're adjusting to new technology. The Water District agenda, again, I'm not aware of any revisions or additions.
No revisions.
Item 3 is the consent calendar.
Move for approval.
Second.
Vote. Unanimous. That concludes that agenda. We now go to the City of Victorville City Council agenda. We've taken care of item 1. As to revisions, I do have a revision to item 9, which is written communications. and we have received that document. I'm unaware of any other revisions.
We have revisions to item number 4, some items that were brought in after the posting of the agenda.
All right. Anything else? All right.
That should be it.
Number 7 will deal with the high school district's bond election. Okay, with that in mind, we will go to item 3, which are public hearings. And the first public hearing deals with arguments for or against the adoption of the mitigated negative declaration for Southern California Logistics Airport West Side Waterline. Before I open the public hearing, questions or comments from members of the council? Hearing none, I'll declare open the public hearing on this item dealing with the West Side Waterline. Invite anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard for or against, pro or con, on this item. Hearing no public testimony and having received no cards, I'll close that public hearing and ask the council for a motion. Moved.
Second.
That's unanimous. I will now turn the gavel over to Mayor Pro Tem Almond. I have been advised by the city attorney that I cannot participate in either the appeal by Scott Eckert of the Planning Commission item on General Plan 2030 or the public hearing dealing with the environmental impact report on General Plan Amendment number 2030. I own stock in Walmart and therefore have a declared conflict of interest, and so I will not only turn the dais over to Ms. Almond, but I will leave the room. Ms. Almond.
Thank you. I think the same rules that Mayor Caldwell told us about public hearing is the same with these here, public comment. We will limit the comments to 3 minutes. And if someone has come up and already expressed your thought, if you would just please come up and say that you agree with whomever spoke before you. I'm going to...
Mayor Pro Tem, I think staff would like to do a short presentation to start the presentation on item 4.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. General Plan 2030 and related projects represents 5 different public hearing items. We'd like to present them together as they are all interrelated to the general plan. I'd like to start with the separate general plan amendment actions of PLN 0780 and 0890. Those are separate staff reports in your packets. PLN 0890 would change the general plan designation on approximately 5 acres from light industrial to heavy industrial and pre-zone it to M2 heavy industrial. The applicant is Space Center Mira Loma, and they have an application to LAFCO to annex into the city, and they need the pre-zoning in order to do that. In addition, they have approval for an almost 1 million square foot distribution building that's half inside the city and half in the county, and therefore we want to get them inside the city. Item PLN 0780 is the western annexation area, which the council is familiar with. LAFCO suggested the negative declaration be revised after the council had approved it over a year ago. Since then, we've revised the land uses to remove the realignment of Highway 395, and we've lowered the intensity of development overall. The staff worked with a consultant for the property owners, and we've revised that neg deck, and LAFCO, the environmental consultant for LAFCO, has agreed that they can use it. That brings us to the general plan itself. Now, California state law requires every city and county to adopt a general plan for its physical development and for any land outside its boundaries which bears relation to its planning. State law also requires a general plan to address 7 areas or elements, which are land use, circulation, housing, noise, safety, open space, and conservation. In some cities, a general plan may have a lifespan of 15 to 20 years. However, due to the unprecedented growth that Victorville experienced from 2001 to 2004, the City Council initiated the process of updating our 1997 general plan in 2005. 6 workshops were held over the course of a year to obtain feedback on issues to be addressed in the plan. And since the beginning of the general plan, a number of organizational changes have occurred in Victorville, such as the merger of the Baldy Mesa and Victor Valley Water Districts, the formation of the Hellendale Community Services District, the Northern Triangle being seen as a specific plan with a potential high-speed train. We've provided for a possible 30,000-acre northern expansion sphere of influence. We changed from a general law city to a charter city. We converted from a city fire department to a county fire contract. And we're also still working on the dissolution of the fire, sanitation, and park and rec districts. Now, while each of these presented a challenge which sometimes altered the course of the general plan, the plan is a better and more thorough product because we were able to analyze them within it. The most dominant element in the general plan is the land use element. It determines the ultimate pattern of development in the city, and much of that development is determined through the land use policy map, or as you know it, the zoning map. The biggest change, or the most visible change that you'll notice on the zoning map is the change from an AutoCAD to an ArcView GIS-based program. This allows the general plan and the zoning information to be tied to other applications that the city uses, such as for code enforcement, or the building department, or even business licenses. This allows an increase in efficiency and accuracy of information, and it also provides an easier to read format altogether. Our main focus on the land use map was to provide commercial nodes at the intersections. The previous general plan had long strips of commercial, about 660 feet deep, which resulted in a 10-acre commercial corner at the intersections. This is not large enough for today's retailers, Super Targets and Super Walmarts and Home Depots and Lowe's. These centers are larger and they need a minimum of 40 acres. So that was our goal, to obtain 40-acre corners, commercial nodes at the intersections. Now, I estimated that at the commission meeting that potentially 95% of the people in front of you were here for the area in front of Spring Valley Lake, and I'd say that's probably about right tonight. Before you tonight is a zone change for the area between Tamarisk Road and Spring Valley Lake Parkway. Walmart has submitted applications for a general plan amendment, a zone change, a site plan, and a conditional use permit for this area. Now, staff originally proposed commercial for the entire area from Ridgecrest to Spring Valley Lake Parkway. Although, after hearing the residents' concerns at the scoping meeting, we took a closer look at the area, and although it is the corner of Ridgecrest and Bear Valley is suited for commercial corner, we deferred changing it at this time due to the existing uses, which include a church and a residential care facility. So the proposal now does closely mimic Walmart's ownership of the parcel. Staff finds this to be an endorsement of the viability of this corner for commercial development. You have an appeal before you that Scott Eckert appealed the Commission's recommendation of approval of this portion of the general plan amendment and the zone change. His appeal and a staff report are included. Staff found that Mr. Eckert failed to provide evidence on how the Commission erred in recommending approval of the project, and we recommend that the Council deny his appeal. Moving on, the Northern Sphere expansion with more...
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Also shown on your packets, the Northern Sphere expansion with more recent residential activity to the north of the airport, the formation of the Hellendale Community Services District, and the proposed development of the specific plan in the Northern Triangle area. Victorville should have more land use oversight in this area, and the city is the most appropriate for future annexations. Therefore, that area has been analyzed and will be presented in the EIR as well. Moving on to the circulation element. Now, circulation deals with more than just streets. It covers all infrastructure, such as utilities, sewers, and storm drains. Now, as with the land use map being the zoning map, what people identify with, the circulation map or traffic is what people identify with as well. The city contracted with a consultant who took our land use policy map, the one we have proposed, took our city traffic model, took the sandbag model, and he took the VVATS study. They did what engineers do, and they came up with 110 recommended changes to the circulation map. The following major changes have been made: the High Desert Corridor, the E220, an 8-lane divided classification, and also in the northern area, we have a backbone system of streets. But like I said, they're not just streets. They also provide for the utilities as well. Next is the housing element. A lot of format changes make the information easier to read. Now, the housing element is important because the redevelopment agency and other departments which benefit from state programs or grants if they could lose that funding and those grants if the housing element is not certified. We are in the process of getting the housing element certified and don't see that any problems with that at this time. Next would be the noise, safety, and resource elements. Again, mostly minor formatting changes have occurred in those elements. We have incorporated the master plan of parks into the resource element, and along the process, we've been having discussions with the Riverside TXI, who operates mines in our sphere of expansion area. We have some language clarifications that we've worked out with them, and that's one of the additions that Marcy mentioned to you. Hearing the council's position in the past on the history of the mines and their ability to create jobs, we don't feel that the council would have any issues with the language clarifications that they're requesting. The last item in the general plan that you might notice is the deletion of the Old Town and SCLA elements of the general plan. Both areas have specific plan documents on them which govern them, and to have them as elements in the general plan was somewhat a little redundant and required changing both documents when an amendment was be requested. Therefore, we deleted those. Am I going too fast? Okay. Another aspect of the general plan action tonight is the adoption of 4 pre-zoning ordinances. Now, 3 of these are county islands which are completely surrounded by the city of Victorville. These islands are inefficient for the county to provide services to, and the San Bernardino County LAFCO has been pushing for all cities which are adjacent to these to incorporate or annex them into the cities. We have those as Mountain View Acres North, Mountain View Acres South, and Code Road. And the Mountain View Acres, those are mostly residential with half-acre and 1-acre minimums. And then the Code Road is a commercial and industrial mix. And then the last pre-zoning that we're asking you to approve is the Northern Sphere of Influence. It's taking our existing sphere of influence and adding 2,050 acres to that for pre-zoning for specific plan, which we envision to come in with the area that's inside the city for the Northern Triangle. Moving on, the zone changes. We're talking about zone changes both for the map, for the zoning map itself, and then text amendments to the municipal code. We took a 3-pronged approach to trying to create better commercial districts for retail sales tax in our C2 general commercial district. The first prong we already discussed was increasing the acreage available at intersections. Second would be removing or changing some of the C2 zoning in between those intersections because it may not be as viable commercially either due to access or signalization. And then the last prong would be that changing the text in the codes, what uses are allowed in those zones to provide a better focus for the commercial districts. In addition to this, the second change that Marcy mentioned was that we would like for graphic number 5, which is referenced in the final EIR and also in the Planning Commission staff report, we would like for that to be incorporated into Ordinance 2227, which is before you tonight. PLN 08101 is the staff report which the council should approve for the text amendments and the zoning code. And that concludes my presentation. What staff had hoped to present to you tonight was a complete professional looking document. What you received on your CDs was a black and white document. We have not quite finished the formatting and the color version, and we hope to do that within a month. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Joanne Lombardo from Comprehensive Planning Services, who was awarded the contract and has prepared the draft EIR and general plan.
Thank you. I'm just going to briefly go over the EIR component since Chris did such a thorough job on the general plan. The EIR that's been prepared for this project is a program EIR. And a program EIR evaluates a series of related actions as one project. And as you can see by the presentation you just had on the general plan, it has many components and it covers the entire city and every issue involved with the city's future development. The scope of the EIR covered every topic that's listed in the state California Environmental Quality Guidelines, again, because it is such a comprehensive look at where the city is and where the city is going. We wanted to make sure we provided a thorough review, so everything from aesthetics to energy conservation. The EIR was prepared with a bevy of technical studies. We had a traffic study, an air quality study, a noise study, a biological resources, cultural resources, geologists. Based on those studies, the EIR found that many of the goals and objectives that are in the general plan, and there was sort of a back and forth with what we found and what we needed the general plan to be, would mitigate the potential impacts of the land use plan and the circulation plan that are proposed. In addition to that, the EIR added additional mitigation measures to make sure that as the city moves forward, that potential environmental impacts would be mitigated. There are 4 issues, air quality, population, housing, noise, and traffic, that would have an unavoidable adverse impact regardless of any mitigation we could do. And in fact, 3 of them, air quality, noise, and traffic, already occur even under existing conditions, or would occur under the existing general plan. This tells you where we are in the draft, in the EIR. We have recently completed the draft EIR. It was circulated for public review. We did receive quite a few comments from public agencies as well as residents. In response to those, we did prepare formal responses to comments, so every agency and individual who responded, who commented, did get a response, and we are here tonight with the final EIR, and the final EIR incorporates the draft EIR, the responses we received on it, the city's comments, as well as some minor changes to the draft EIR and the general plan that have occurred through the 45-day review period, and as we read and received some clarification. The mitigation monitoring report, which is the matrix that the city will use to make sure that as development moves forward, that all mitigations are properly implemented. And along with the final EIR, there will be findings that the council will be asked to adopt. And they will include the findings of fact that basically summarizes the findings within the EIR, and the statement of overriding considerations that says, despite the potential impacts from air quality, noise, traffic that could occur just by the size and the regional growth that's occurring throughout California, that the benefits of this project outweigh it, and the benefits of this project is the comprehensive planning with land use, circulation and infrastructure, and open space being planned for the future. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the council? Okay, with that, Andre, I'll go ahead and proceed.
Mayor Pro Tem Almond, I would recommend that the council consider and open the public hearing on item 4A separate and apart from the public hearing on the remainder of the items. The reason for that is it is an appeal hearing, and you should make a decision as to that appeal. If for some reason, based on the testimony, you wanted to grant the appeal, then the remainder of the items from 4B through 4F would have to go back to the Planning Commission. So I understand that might confuse a lot of people in terms of what they should be commenting on, and perhaps if you open the public hearing on item 4A, consider all the testimony and ask the speakers if they want their comments applicable to both. That would be entirely appropriate, so they wouldn't have to then make the same comments on 4B. But the items are separate. One is an appeal of the Planning Commission, and you should decide that item first based on the testimony, and then consider items 4B through F independently through a separate public hearing.
Mayor Pro Tem Almond, if I might just clarify something with the attorney. The appeal hearing for the granting or denying, is that granting or denying the entire thing or just portion?
The appeal is of the entire decision with respect to the general plan amendment, so it would be denying or granting, and then you would send back the rest of the items.
So you'd have to send back the entire?
Correct, if the appeal is granted.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so what we will do now, and just flipping through the cards, most of you wish to speak on 4A, but like Mr. Dvornowski just said, if you wish to speak on 4B, I will ask you at the time. Right here. Yeah. When you come up to speak, I will ask you, and if I forget, please remind me that you would also like your comments that you are speaking on to reflect for 4B. Is that clear? If not, we'll work it out as you get here. First, I would like to call Mr. Scott Eckert.
And Mayor Pro Tem, just to clarify, this is now the appeal hearing on 4A solely.
And I'd like to just clarify, I was told by the city clerk that I am not constrained to the 3-minute time limit.
That is up to the council in determining how many cards are there. It is a reasonable determination of the city council as to how long to provide to each speaker. And it's usually based on the number of cards you receive.
Right. I have a fistful of cards here, and that's the reason we were asking for a 3-minute time limit. Otherwise, this could go on for hours.
Typically,
let me clarify.
Excuse me.
Mayor Pro Tem, the actual appellant, if you would like, obviously, most times the council will give a little more time to the actual appellant, and Mr. Eckhart is the appellant, so.
Okay, would it be appropriate if I went ahead on, we can give him 5 minutes?
How long do you think you're going to take for your?
I think 6 or 7 minutes. I asked if I would be constrained. She said no, because I am on the agenda.
I understand.
And I am the appeal.
I understand.
That'd be appropriate to give
I will
him
try my best to get it
additional
done in
time
6 minutes or so.
You would like 6 minutes? I'm sorry, 6 minutes, you say?
I'll do my best. She said there was no hard and fast time constraint, and I said I would try to do it in 6 or 7 minutes, so I will do my best.
Okay. We will go ahead and do that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Scott Eckert, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I am here to ask that you grant my appeal and reject the recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve the General Plan 2030 as currently written. My appeal was initiated because the plan contains several very controversial parcels near Victor Valley College, which, if approved tonight, will change the allowable land use of these parcels from office professional and residential to commercial. These changes will significantly alter the existing educational and residential character of the surrounding area by opening the door to a 24/7 supercenter complex, a supercenter already proposed to the city in July of 2006. Changing this area to allow commercial development of this magnitude will have many significant impacts to the area, including jeopardizing the safety of thousands of young children and college students, inconsistency with surrounding land uses, which are currently primarily residential, educational, daycare, and religious, negatively affecting property values of the surrounding area, opening up the possibility of significant volume of liquor sales within walking distance of 4 schools with thousands of school children, homes, a church, and a rehab center, something that will not likely even be allowed by the California Alcohol Beverage Control. Degradation of traffic not only beyond the current failing condition, but continuing far into the foreseeable future. Many people also made the most important decision of their lives by buying a home in the area, never expecting that Victorville would come along someday and try to change the rules of the game to allow a massive commercial development to occur. The main focus of the general plan's land use changes is to provide for larger commercial nodes at major intersections, as was mentioned. In a recommendation letter from Mr. Bill Webb, Director of Development, dated October 13th, Mr. Webb states that the subject area is currently located at a major intersection. Well, I don't think it takes a traffic engineer to look at this intersection and conclude that this is a very weak argument, given that nearly all the cross traffic through that intersection in that area consists of residents and students. The average citizen may not be able to technically define a major intersection, but I'll bet they can tell you that this intersection is not one. Mr. Webb also argues in his letter that these changes can't be considered spot rezoning. But what else would you call it when there is minimal change of any other parcels other than those owned by Walmart? Mr. Webb states, and the changes in this area extend to the north and east beyond the parcels owned by Walmart. This is a very misleading statement meant to imply that there are significant numbers of other parcels being changed nearby, when in fact there are only a few small parcels nearby being considered for change, since the vast majority of the parcels proposed for the change are already owned by Walmart. And if you look at your map back here, you'll see in the very southeast corner of your city, there is no land to the north and to the east that can be changed. There is a few minor parcels there. Very misleading statement. City planning arguments regarding traffic impacts are also very weak. They acknowledge that the traffic congestion in this area is already very poor. And then they try to argue that it's not affected by the 18 acres being changed. They claim that the traffic mess is only due to the overall scope of the general plan. However, the general plan EIR states, this EIR attempts to incorporate all current and future projects within the planning area, and then list all 3 proposed super Walmart projects proposed for the city of Victorville. So on one hand, the city argues that the general plan EIR does not take into account future projects, but then fails to acknowledge the expected 15,000 new vehicle trips per day that will go in and out of that rezoned area, all of which will supposedly have no significant impact to traffic congestion. Also, as part of Mr. Webb's letter under traffic congestion, he implies that the city does not yet even have an application for a supercenter, which of course is not true. A sitting councilman even made a statement recently at the candidates forum that the traffic issues for a Walmart at this location have been addressed, and he would therefore support a Walmart store at this location. That's an interesting statement, given that no environmental impact report or traffic analysis has yet to be performed for this particular project at that location. I think sitting council members should at least wait until the appropriate studies have been performed before stating their intention to approve a project at a given location. I hope you can see that comments like these might lead to public belief that some on this council may have already made up their mind on the Super Walmart project, regardless of what the EIR may say. In other words, don't push the button before it's on the agenda. I also received a letter this week from City Planning stating that concerns and issues raised during the General Plan EIR comment period earlier this year were actually concerns applicable only to the proposed supercenter plan for the parcels. The letter stated that the concerns raised were being addressed in a draft EIR currently being processed by the city, incorrectly referring to the Dania Plaza project EIR. Like the EIR referred to during the candidates forum, the EIR for the parcels we are discussing tonight has not yet been done. Are you getting the idea that the public might be a bit confused and concerned when comments and statements are made by the city about non-existent documents? This greatly concerns me. Prior to this meeting tonight, the city has been very aware of the strong opposition voiced by area residents of the proposed land use change, ranging from thousands of signed petitions, which here is 3,000 people who live in and around the area, which hopefully you've seen before, and that was collected within just a few months of the announcement of the project. Emails, letters, correspondence. In front of you, you see 500 postcards opposing this project, and the Planning Commission received around 300 on September 24th, and much opposition at public meetings to this project. The final public plea before tonight was at the Planning Commission meeting on September 24th, where our request to remove the controversial parcels was ignored. Many people spoke out against the land use change that evening, but amazingly, not one member of the public spoke in support of changing the allowable land use for these parcels, not even the owner of the land. How can any of you ignore the objections and protest over what this general plan will do to thousands of students and residents and commuters? The surrounding land use has a very large concentration of public educational use, 4 schools ranging from elementary, junior high, high school, and junior college, and a major church. The total number of children and students within walking distance, as close as 700 feet from the area, is 14,000 today, which is expected to grow to well over 25,000 within the next 5 to 10 years. This area is clearly an educational complex and not a commercial center. I'd like to ask those in the audience who are here tonight to oppose the general plan as proposed to please stand. Thank you. All right. Thank you all for coming. These citizens and many others in the high desert are simply asking you to remove the controversial parcels from the general plan so they can be more appropriately considered as part of the developer's current application for his Walmart supercenter. It is pretty obvious to many of us why these parcels are even being considered for change now, and that is simply because the developers asked for it. The developer or Victorville does not seem to care how these changes will affect residents and citizens, only that the developer gets what he wants. Planning Commissioner Chair Ryan McAkron recently stated that he was disappointed that the Commission did not choose to segment this issue from the General Plan 2030, and that he thought Walmart should have sought approval for the General Plan amendment, zone change, site plan, and alcohol permit all at the same time. I think Mr. McAkron is right. Mr. McAkron also said that he's afraid the decision not to consider the parcels separately could threaten the entire general plan update. Hopefully you've considered this possibility in your decision process. Many of us do not understand why the city is so reluctant to see if these proposed land use changes and the proposed project will stand on its own merit. By not removing these parcels, you've clearly shown the public that you believe opening the door to a poorly planned, poorly located project is more important in the best interest of thousands of residents, school children, and VVC students. In summary, granting my appeal tonight and removing the controversial parcels from the general plan will accomplish three important goals. It will provide for much more open public discussion and visibility into the proposed land use change and plan project for this area. It will also remove much of the public opposition to the General Plan 2030. And most importantly, it is the right thing to do. I therefore ask you to grant my appeal of the recommendation of approval of the General Plan 2030. Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the next name I have in my hand is Tony Murdoch. I appreciate the enthusiasm. I understand where it's coming from. But we need to hear from the speakers that have given us a card. Thank you. You have 3 minutes, sir.
City Council members, my name is Tony Murdoch. Scott Eckert has covered my concerns and more. The only other comment I have is that the Planning Commission has not done their job. You need to go back and revisit this parcel. This is not the right place for a super Walmart. Okay?
May I ask you one question before you leave?
Sure.
May I ask, like I said, I was going to ask, we are now on 4A. Your comments will reflect on 4B also? 4A.
4A.
We are now on item 4A. And what we're asking is that your comments reflect for 4B.
These are my total comments.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
All of item 4.
Pardon me?
They can just say the comments are for all of item 4.
Okay. Okay, the next one I have in my hand is Betty Francisco's. So it just has to reflect.
Scott covered everything pretty good. Can you hear me?
Pull you down, honey. Pull it down. There you go.
Okay. But I just, having the fire department here was really a good thing tonight, because between the fire department, the paramedics, and the police, they have one heck of a time getting where they're going on Bear Valley Road with their sirens. And putting Walmart in there is not going to help one bit when the fire department, paramedics, whatever, are trying to save somebody's life. So, Walmart.
Okay. The next name I have is Linda Elliott. Linda Elliott.
Still don't understand the difference between A and B. If you could explain that in English at some point to us, it would
No,
really be helpful.
it was just because, I'll let the attorney do that.
4A is an appeal hearing from the Planning Commission decision. Items 4B through F are separate and apart from the appeal hearing. If the council denies the appeal, then they would consider those items with respect to adopting the General Plan 2030. If they grant the appeal, then the rest of the items would go back to the Planning Commission.
So what you're doing is what you're saying now reflects all of it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think most of it's been covered really excellent over here already. But I just think it's interesting that, when you talk to people in the community and you wonder, especially from Spring Valley residents, why more people don't show up here tonight, it's because they have a belief that our what we think doesn't count because we're second-class citizens because we're not incorporated, and our vote doesn't count for Victorville council members. So a lot of them say it doesn't do us any good to come. And I hope that's not the truth. I hope that the council member is open to all comments from all citizens within the community. And I guess the biggest concern, of course, is the crime and the traffic, and that's well been addressed, and I just don't think people are listening to what the citizens are saying. And again, it sounds like Walmart, just because they want us to change the zoning, you're agreeing to it, and it just doesn't make sense. There's so many other areas that aren't so close to residentials and schools and churches that could have been selected or used, and we could still get the Victorville tax revenue coming in. There are other locations, so I just think you need to really listen to the citizens and to the voters. Certainly we have friends in Victorville that do vote and do affect your job, so just please take that into consideration. Thanks.
Thank you. Andrew Hernandez. Andrew Hernandez. I may be saying your last name wrong, but that's the way I read it. I'm sorry? Okay. I'm sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'm Andrew Henderson. I live in Spring Valley Lake. Mr. Scott covered the topic very well. I also support that Spring Valley Lake is not the appropriate location for a Walmart. A couple of Saturdays ago, I was watching on TV. There was a special that was run, and it showed some of the crime that's been taking place all across the U.S. in Walmart parking lots. So apparently, Walmart only cares about the profits and not the customers. And we don't need that kind of clientele in Spring Valley. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I apologize. Don Menderes?
Good evening. My name is Don Medeiros. I'm a local small business owner. My children have attended the Victor Valley School District. My name was put in by my wife, so I'm here now. I didn't know if I was going to make the meeting.
May I ask you, please, if you'll speak into the
I'm
microphone?
sorry.
Into the microphone.
My concern after hearing all the comments that were made earlier and also that so far up tonight has to do with more with the balance of what we have in our community and how Victorville City Council is viewed. That when the zoning was originally done, it was done as light commercial, essentially, with residential in that area, because it anticipated having the church that was there, plus another one that's coming. Senior housing was coming in place with the retirement facility they have there, in anticipation of having schools surrounding the area with the grade school and the middle school and the high school, 2 daycare centers. And when they looked at this before the council, they looked for the future, what would be there. And so they contemplated that balance of the community which would be needed for that area, taking into consideration traffic and what all these students and future residents in that area would be concerned with. The only thing that's changed when we talk about redoing this plan is that Walmart bought a piece of land there. And what Walmart wants, Walmart gets. And that's what we have some concerns about, is that it's just this rush to give whatever business needs. We've seen this long, slippery slope where we've had redevelopment funds and bonds and electrical plants, Nutro, everything that's gone, so it's business first. And all these last few years, we've seen so tremendous interest in putting the business first over the public. When we ask about where's our libraries, where's our parks, where's the rec centers and children programs, they're all secondary to what we're doing for the business first. And we need that balance back. We need some kind of balance that tells us we're a city where the families and their children, they can enjoy themselves, they can have the nourishment, the enrichment and nourishment and everything that they need within our boundaries. When you say things have changed since the last general plan, I agree. I think with all those schools there and thousands of students and everything that's there, we need to rezone that. It should be more like a sports park complex. We should have a daycare center that the city can run for city employees. We should have a rec center for the children after school programs. We should have a senior citizen center so they have a place to go, that people who are veterans and put the monies in and pay their taxes. That's a multi-use purpose. That's something the city can be proud of. And it'd be the first new park the city's ever built. It'd be great to use that for something that's actually made for that area. That would be more enrichment for that area. That gives the families of Victorville sports complex with soccer fields and baseball fields. The kind of traffic doesn't change there, but the quality and the enrichment of the families do. So I'm asking the council to go back and think about a balance within our community. There's going to be Walmarts everywhere. There's nothing wrong with Walmart. It's the location that's wrong.
Thank you. The next name I have on the card, I have 3 names. I don't know how we're going to work this, but here, one is Julianne, Jackie, and Corey. Okay, you're going to have one person speak for you. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Jackie Medeiros. Yeah, let's do that. We all attend Victor Valley College classes once every week. When the class is over, it's dark outside and it's very scary, like to think about walking the stretch between the building the class is in and the parking lot, when there could be criminals from Walmart, because Walmart is known for its high crime rates. And I think we all have the right to feel safe, especially just like a few meters stretch. And it's not very comfortable walking that. So I believe that allowing a 24-hour super Walmart store next to the college will make many students feel unsafe, and the store shoppers could potentially endanger the students 24 hours a day. Also, we all run SRLA, which is training for the LA Marathon, and we run in and around Spring Valley Lake, and we run past the patch of land that is supposed to have a super Walmart on it. And there are criminals once again, and we agree with Mr. Eckert and Mr. Medeiros and everybody else who's spoken so far on this matter. And it is a safety issue. Like, we don't feel safe around there. And it is our community, and we do believe we have the right to feel safe.
Thank you. Very well. Very well done. The next card I have is Alfonso Villaneza. I have a tendency to massacre names. I apologize.
Good evening, Madam Mayor Pro Tem and esteemed members of the City Council. My name is Alfonso Villanueva, and I'm a resident of the Spring Valley Lake community. I'm a retired police officer, having worked 30 years with the Department of the Youth Authority under the California State Prison System. I work with California's most dangerous convicted felons and gang members. I currently volunteer as a gang intervention specialist, counseling and mentoring at-risk and in-risk youth. I come before you tonight to express my opposition to the Super Walmart being proposed to be built at the entrance of the Spring Valley Lake community. If the city of Victorville makes a decision to approve the rezoning of the land for the proposed Walmart, the council, as a municipal governing body, will be fostering a community environment that will invite a significant increase of criminal activity. The national research data about Walmarts is quite conclusive. If the Walmart comes to Spring Valley Lake, there will be an increased criminal activity in the neighborhood. Many law-abiding citizens that are here present tonight will be victimized by robberies, car thefts and burglaries, assaults, rapes, and even murder. And how about the safety of our children? By putting a super Walmart in close proximity to a college, 3 schools, and 2 daycare centers, coupled with the high number of registered and unregistered sex offenders in the high desert, the council will be inviting a major disaster to occur. It would be a matter of time before an innocent child would be forcibly snatched and sexually abused by a sexual predator. It is an accepted fact by California criminal justice experts that the high desert serves as a receptacle for a disproportionate number of parolees released from state prison. Many Southern California cities, police departments, and victims object to having dangerous felons return to their respective communities. As a retired state parole agent, I can attest to the direct correlation between increased crime in the high desert and the increasing number of parolees with 1 or 2 strikes that are being released from state prison to the high desert. And many of these parolees are not originally from the high desert. They are here simply because they have no other place to be paroled to. It is also a well-known fact that the high desert has a disproportionate number of parolees and sex offenders that are AWOL from parole. These parolees at large terrorize the community because they simply don't care and know that they will be going back to prison when arrested. By
Mr.
bringing in the
Alfonso,
Walmart into Spring Valley community, we would be inviting many of these high desert criminals and parolees to victimize easy victims who will be shopping at Walmart. In conclusion, the safety and serenity of the Spring Valley Lake community will be put at risk if the City Council makes a no-brainer decision to allow a super Walmart to come to our neighborhood. I humbly urge the City Council to vote against the proposed rezoning and thereby protect the citizens and children of our community. Thank you.
The next card is Mr. George Colburn. Mr. George Colburn.
Members of the council, good evening. My name is George Colburn. I live in Spring Valley Lake. And contrary to official Walmart assurances, the proposal to introduce a Walmart store adjacent to Spring Valley Lake ignores the burden it would impose on an already overtaxed infrastructure. The residents of Spring Valley Lake, along with those of nearby communities, are striving to achieve the highest possible standards of quality regarding both safety and aesthetic values. Walmart offers obvious advantages to its customers. It makes a wide variety of merchandise available at affordable prices, but its stores are dirty, noisy, overcrowded, and dehumanizing. They move our community in a direction that is contrary to the one it has outlined for itself. If you visit Spring Valley Lake and then visit Walmart, you will see 2 conflicting philosophies: quality up, quality down. Target, on the other hand, is a good neighbor, clean, well-managed, and it operates on a human scale. It does not add significantly to our traffic problem as a Walmart would. Target is a successful model that you might use as a standard for judging the appropriateness of newly arriving businesses. There are other businesses in our area that also contribute more than they detract. There are places in the world that are so dilapidated and so dysfunctional that the arrival of a Walmart store is actually an improvement. Please don't suggest that Spring Valley Lake is one of those places. And please don't obstruct our efforts to build and improve our neighborhood in the way we planned, in the way we decided, and in the way that we choose to continue to advance. We are being tested. Soon we will know if we can be persuaded to lower our expectations, or if we can stand up to seemingly overwhelming pressures. Eve failed that test, and now it's our turn to prove our resolution. Thank you.
Mr. Charles Smith. Mr. Charles Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. A master plan is a broad planning document for long-range strategic planning. Deciding to put a specific controversial store or type of store in an area with no neighboring similar properties is a lower-level strategic decision. What is so objectionable about separating the tactical and strategic decisions so the latter can be considered on its own merits, instead of sneaking it into a master plan and then pleading that it is too small a part of that plan to allow it to threaten the entire thing? I'd also like to state that while there's a lot of comments about Walmart, the major issue is not a Walmart issue. It's a big box store issue. Since Walmart is a store that wants to go into the location under discussion, many people fall into the habit of talking about this as a Walmart problem. But for most people, the objection is to any large shopping area with its attendant traffic, pollution, and potential for crime problems in an area so close to schools and established residential neighborhoods. As concerned as I am about schools, The biggest problem to me is the additional traffic on Bear Valley Road, and of course, traffic was one of the unavoidable problems or one of the significant impact problems mentioned in the EIR. Thank you.
I have another card here for Mr. Scott Eckhart. Did you wish to, now you're going to be limited to 3 minutes because this is for all of them. Yes, I understand. So did you want to speak on 3 minutes?
We should still do 4A and close the public hearing on 4A first.
Okay, so we'll hold this aside?
Right.
Okay, I'm going to hold this one aside then. I have others here for 4B now. Andre, do I?
Could ask if there's any more comments on 4A, and then
Okay.
close the public hearing and consider that item.
Are there, just a moment, please. I've separated the cards, and the rest are on 4B, unless I come across another one for 4A. But so far, all of them that I have left in my hand. One, I just have number 4. It doesn't say what A or B. I have 4 of those for just number 4. So I'm going to go ahead and call those before I go on to 4B. Is that okay?
Right.
Okay. The ones that just have number 4 on are Galen Stringham,
letting me speak. I just wanted to tell you that I'm a mother of 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls, and all of my older kids have attended.
Can you say your name, please?
Galen Stringham.
I just called her up.
I tried to make it easy for you. It's okay. It's a hard one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just wanted to tell you that I also, like others, fear for the safety of my children, all of which who have done 2 years at Victor Valley College. And I very rarely go to Walmart, but on the occasion that I do, when it's just a logistics issue, I have witnessed personally 3 drug deals go down in that parking lot that I have telephoned and turned them in. One of which, the gentleman put his drugs in his baby's diaper and handed the child to the recipient of the drugs. And the guy looked at him and said, "I don't want to see your kid." And he looked, and then he looked at me because he knew I saw what happened. I've had my kids buying video games in Walmart and heard the couple in front of us argue why they don't have any money for Christmas because they spent it on chronic, which I didn't know what that was. Had to go home and look it up. It's some sort of drug. I just want you to know it's very unsafe. If you had your daughters, or sons for that matter, at Victor Valley College and have them walk to their cars in the evening when these people doing their drug deals at Walmart run out of money, they're going to go hit those kids in the parking lot, and they are going to take that money. And when your daughter is raped and murdered because of money from the creeps that go to Walmart, you will understand why this is so important to all of us. Please hear us. Please. Thank you.
The next card I have is Kevin Barda.
Hello, my name is Kevin Barda. I'm a professor at Victor Valley College as well as the cross-country coach, so I saw the girls in the uniforms. Pretty much everything Scott said covered it. I just wanted to talk about a couple of real quick things. Our enrollment's increasing rapidly right now. We're up to approximately 15,000 students. Adding all those Walmart shoppers is not going to help. I can understand your short term because it's financial gain. Obviously, I'm not an idiot. However, the long-term losses in increased, police force, any, tragedies that may occur as a result of the clientele and the people that prey on that clientele. So the downswing in the long term is just disastrous. Yeah, I understand there's more money, but there's just no possible way. If you don't think that's true, I invite any of you to go shopping at Walmart at 10:30 at night, which ironically is a time when my classes get out and I have to walk to my car alone. And how about our female professors? They have to walk to their car alone. And yeah, that's right, they have 35 students in that class walking to their car alone. Like they said, preschool through, so it's K through 14 is within 1,000 feet of that proposed Walmart. But the last thing I wanted to touch on is I thought it was ironic that I wish I could put the screen up there that said the scope of the IR, because that Walmart pretty much violates about 80% of that. So that's all in my closing.
Thank you. The next card I have is Cramy Carr.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Graham Carr. I'm a resident of Spring Valley Lake. I'm also a realtor in the high desert. I understand growth in the community and what it can do to the community. I've also been a resident of the high desert since 1982, and I question the policies that have been before most of the city councils since then on growth and what it has really done to our community. Yes, we've had growth, and yes, we don't have to go down the hill now to shop. We can shop here locally, but I also want you to, and most of you have lived here for a long time, I believe. You have seen what has happened to our community. It's not the community that it was 25, 26 years ago. So I want you to consider that. It's not all about growth, even though my job is dependent upon growth. I'm in the real estate business. But having said that, my biggest concern, and I think it's a fairly innocuous concern when I hear the concerns of the parents of children. My concern, not being a parent, is traffic. And I travel Bear Valley Road frequently, and there's a natural bottleneck from the Mojave River to Industrial Boulevard. There's a bottleneck, and I don't know how that'll ever be resolved, and that is only going to increase with traffic. Mr. Barter was talking about enrollment at the college, presently been 15,000. We only know that's going to get higher and higher, so we're going to have more and more traffic. My point is, and my question is, or my request is, that you appeal the general plan and leave the zoning as it is. I do not believe that a change to commercial zoning of that property, which would allow for any commercial retail or any big box, is the zoning. I think it should remain the way it is, and we'd be all better off for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew.
I'd ask and see if there's anybody else on board.
Okay. That's all the cards I have on 4A. The rest are on 4B. Is there anyone that I missed that wishes to speak on 4A? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the hearing.
Correct. You should close on the public hearing on 4A, the appeal, and consider the approval or denial of the appeal, and before you consider the rest of the agenda with respect to the general plan.
Then I can go on, okay. Okay, I will be closing agenda item 4A, and the decision, did the council have any questions or comments before we move forward? No? Rudy? No? Okay, with that, we'll either have resolution number 08153A granting, or resolution number 08153B denying.
Let me, I'm going to make a motion, so you can second it or not second it, but I want to make a comment here first. What you've been experiencing so far is a major revision to our general plan. Very complicated document. I think almost everyone in the room appreciates the magnitude of all the different aspects of that thing. No small part of it is right next to Spring Valley Lake, but nevertheless, it is a humongous document, a very necessary document, and a document that is very important to us to proceed ahead with whatever designs went. So the first step in that document had to be to define the land use decisions that were deemed appropriate for each of the location. With respect to the property next to Spring Valley Lake, whether you like a Walmart, a Target, or any other type of enterprise on that particular parcel, the Planning Commission has deemed that that is an appropriate zoning for that property. And no one inherently owns the zoning of their property. You could be here 100 years and your zoning can change depending on the nature and the growth in the community. So the battle that you fought so far is legitimate. You've stepped out in the front and you say, hey, I think there's a fox in the hen house. It's the Walmart project is coming. but it's still premature. The real challenge for whether that appropriate project at that site is good to go or not is determined by all the conditions that may or may not be imposed on that project, irrespective of the rest. The concerns around Walmart, I don't go over to our Walmart at 10 o'clock at night. I don't feel comfortable there either. But the inherent idea that because a business center it has a criminal element associated with it, then we would have to disallow it in all of our commercial areas and everything else. It would not.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, we listen to you, please. Thank you. If we don't stop now, I'll stop it. Go ahead, Mike.
The conditions around that location for a specific Walmart ought to be addressed when the project comes to the Planning Commission. What I'm looking at here is there a problem with the zoning that is in place, that is being changed to on Bear Valley? It's a rhetorical question. I'm not asking for your answer. I know your answer, so give me a chance. I'll shut up then if you don't want it on here, because I think you need to think ahead. No matter what happens here tonight, no matter which way a vote were to go tonight, you still have a challenge before you, and you still have arguments that have to be laid down in a conscious, logical way before the Planning Commission and this or some other city council. If there's a new one sitting here in a few months, that's good too. But the point is that you have to have your arguments legitimate. You can't just simply say, I don't want a particular project, and you haven't even gotten to that stage yet.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, there's no talking back and forth.
My vote tonight is based on whether the Planning Commission has made any inherent errors in the decision of labeling that particular location a commercial real estate properly zoned on that spot. And the Planning Commission has said it's good to go. I have heard nothing here that suggests that that zoning is not an appropriate zoning for there. You haven't heard me say anything about what particular project may be there. But the point is that I'm looking at this general plan. I'm not prepared to jettison this plan that has put a lot of work in by staff and everybody else and a lot of input. And for the idea that you have jumped ahead of the game and want to kill a particular project for the whole master plan that the city has been working on for a long time. So from my point of view, I am going to move that we reject the appeal, and I'm going to move for Resolution 08-153B, denying the appeal.
We have a motion. Ladies and gentlemen, we've listened to you, please.
Oh, here we go.
We have a motion and a second. And may we vote?
Well, before we vote, let me make one comment. I'm looking at two different things here. One is Mr. Eckert's appeal hearing to me, and any time we have an appeal hearing on the council, primarily it deals, did the Planning Commission make a procedural error, first of all. That's what I have to look at. Keep in mind that 4B is where we look at the general plan, and do we want to approve the general plan. So if I look at was there a procedural error on the Planning Commission's side, I would have to say no, that I couldn't grant it because of that purpose. But keep in mind, we still have not heard on the general plan for the council side, which is B. So we have to go through this process again right after we're done with this. And then do we want, or do I want to say that I agree with the general plan? I am going to say I don't believe the Planning Commission erred on their procedures. No, I don't think they did. That's not saying that I totally agree with the plan as it sets, but I'm not going to say that the Planning Commission erred. So I understand you're saying we deny the motion?
I made a motion to.
So keep in mind my vote.
The appeal.
We have a first and second on the appeal. May we vote? This is for resolution denying.
Ms. Alden, did you get it? Okay.
Did it come up?
Got it, yeah.
Okay, motion carries. Now,
Into, yeah, if you want.
yeah, what we're going to do is, I know you're all anxious to go home, so are we, but we're going to take a 5-minute break. We've been sitting here with you, listening you patiently. We'll be back to listen to the rest of you. We need 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, I did.
You know, what we forgot to do
Okay.
is add the stuff to the record. We forgot to-
on to 4B. If it's possible to take out a portion of this general plan and continue on with the general plan by removing a portion of this.
Ms. Mulman, what you're asking is to take out the parcel that we're dealing with as far as Walmart. You want to take that portion out?
That's what I'm
and
asking.
and segregate it.
If it's possible
Right.
to take out a portion of this plan. And you have the slide for me?
Yes, Brandon, can we bring up the slide from the PowerPoint presentation?
What you're asking essentially is whether or not you could consider
Push that to all the screens.
adoption of the general plan amendment, but for that portion of it that affects this property. Is that the question?
Right.
I don't see why you could not do that. You have before you items 4B, subcategories 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I believe if we just reference specifically this parcel, that it would not be part of your approval of the general plan amendment. Chris, I believe you can do that, correct? And it would probably only affect one of these resolutions. Is that correct, or does it affect several of them?
I'm not sure which one the resolution. That's why I was asking if we can.
If we want
They can
to
do it. It would not affect any of the resolutions. It would affect more of the zoning map itself and the general plan map, the maps themselves. The ordinances themselves don't specifically identify.
So there isn't any one specific resolution or ordinance in this number 4 that we're going to be
Correct.
that will affect it in any way.
What you would have to do once you
would direct
taken the
staff.
testimony is make a motion to adopt the various ordinances and resolutions with the understanding and the direction of staff that this property would be eliminated from that approval process, so it would not be voted on. You could do that if you wanted to.
Yeah, just so that,
I would like for everybody to understand what we're trying to say here.
yeah, just so they're clear out there that we're going
Are
to.
you clear what we're trying to say to you? Okay, now, with that, we have a public hearing before us. I have cards here. Now, if you still want to speak, it would be nice if you didn't want to, but by law, I'm sorry, it's getting late. By law, I have a card here.
You have not voted on the item yet, but you could indicate sort of a consensus without taking a vote as to if there's an inclination. I've already heard 2 council members are interested in it.
Okay.
So,
Do you want us to make a vote illegal?
no, I do not want you to vote on it right
Is
now, but you can indicate
Is the
that.
consensus with the council? Do we agree?
Then I would open the public hearing, consider the public hearing testimony, close the public hearing, and have your discussion regarding the various items on 4B, 1 through 6, I believe it is.
1 through 6?
And then for C, D, and E as
And
well.
E.
And you can direct staff, again, is, what I'm hearing is to direct them to eliminate any of those approvals with respect to those properties.
I have a question before. This was brought up at the Planning Commission meeting to separate the parcels out, but there weren't, or this particular parcel, but it was not.
That was a slightly different issue, as I understand it. They were going to segregate those items for the purposes of avoiding certain conflicts, and the Planning Commission decided that was not appropriate, that they wanted a consensus of the Planning Commission to vote on the entire package.
Okay. Back to my original question. We heard you, and I will open, should I go ahead and open it, Andre, as
You should.
normal?
I also would like to point out that we did receive, with respect to item 4A, certain correspondence. There's a letter from the Bridge Law Corporation.
Got 2 of those today.
2 letters from them, along with a CD, letter from Stanley Hoffman, and a letter from a Spring Valley Lake resident, all of which are part of the record and will be included into the record for the purposes in your consideration of both these items.
4A
Correct. And 4B as well. 'Cause
and
it's not
4B as
clear-
well?
It's not clear as to what they pertain to specifically.
Copies of those are down there on the.
So what I'm going to do is open up the hearing.
The remainder of, it'd be on the remainder of agenda item 4. Everything but 4A.
Okay, for 4B
4B, I think there's 4.
1 through 6.
through 6.
And
I
there's
don't
also
know anymore.
There's also 4C, D, and E. Is that correct, Chris?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I will now open up the hearing for 4B, General Plan 2030.
C, D, and E.
Okay, B, C, D, and E. And forgive me, I'm really confused right now. Okay, I'm going to call a name. If you wish to speak, you're welcome to come up and speak. If not, just whatever. Okay. Osmar Castro? Wow. You waited all this time.
Thank you so much. Thank you all, Spring Valley Lake residents. I'm the general manager, and it's an honor to work for you guys. I actually look forward to coming in to work every day. With that said, I would just suggest for us to allow the council to vote on it, and it seems that it's probably going to be good for us. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Julie Atkins.
Good evening. My name is Julie Atkins Smith, and although I had some negative comments, it seems like you will do the right thing. Realizing, though, that Victorville is desperate for jobs and revenue, I do concede that any big box store would supply both. In the past, this council has let money talk. Neutro, in close proximity to thousands of homeowners, is one example. This time I am hopeful, and it appears to actually come to fruition, that the safety of approximately 15,000 students and the impact of thousands of commuters who would spend added time creeping east or west on Bear Valley Road will give this council the courage to remove the parcel in question from the 2030 plan and leave the current zoning for that parcel in place. Thank you.
Our next card is Gary Douglas. Gary Douglas.
I'm also here on behalf of the Spring Valley Lake residents. Unfortunately, they're not part of our base, which they should be, but that's another issue. I appreciate this council reconsidering pulling that piece of property. I think that's a noble thing to do. However, we need to be concerned whether there'll be a backdoor deal made and whether this whole issue is legal, since we denied an appeal in the first place. But once again, I do appreciate your reconsideration. Thank you.
Mr. Jerry Lawrence. Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Jerry Lawrence. At this time, honey, I know.
Thank you. As you are proud of the banner program that you have in your community, Spring Valley Lake members are proud to stand together tonight to fight this rezoning of this area. We feel that it's wrong. We don't need it in there, and we don't want the city of Victorville to be held accountable for accidents that are bound to happen in that area because of traffic. So I don't want anyone to be liable for something like that. But we are proud to stand together, and thank you for letting us be here this evening.
Jennifer Medeiros.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Medeiros. I had several other comments prepared, but it appears that that you are doing the right thing tonight in removing these parcels owned by Walmart from the 2030 plan. So is it correct in my understanding that all four of you agree to remove these parcels?
Yes, the consensus was unanimous.
Thank you. And I would like to point out that I've heard the issue of Spring Valley Lake come up many times tonight, and I'd like to bring to your attention that There are many people that are Victorville residents, Victorville voters, and residents all over the high desert that are opposed to this store. There are 500 postcards before you that oppose this project, and they're signed by people in Victorville and all over the high desert. The 3,000 signatures are residents all over the high desert, not just Spring Valley Lake. So I would like to make sure that this is not just a Spring Valley Lake issue. You are doing the right thing tonight for all of the high desert, and I appreciate that. And with that, I would like to thank all the people that came out tonight and ask that perhaps we can withhold our comments to when this issue is again before your board, and then we can get some sleep tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Norman Miller.
Members, I hope I don't get a bunch of rocks thrown at me tonight, but I think I want to talk on 4E2. I don't know as long as this thing is, I'm not sure if that's the right spot or not, but maybe Chris could tell me. Anyway, it's part of 4. We just wanted to make a comment that there's a commercial zone on Eucalyptus that is practically across the street from where the new park and fire station is going to be. And we would make a request that that be removed from the general plan as a commercial zone and put into a residential, because everything around that, I think it's about 20 acres or so, but everything around that for half a mile or more is residential. And with the residential on the commercial on 395, Bear Valley Road and Amethyst, I think there's enough commercial there to keep it away from the parks, because if we get it in there, who knows, we'll have a ABC in there with liquor and other types of things that we don't need for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Kenny? Mr. Steve Kenny? Oh, okay.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. My name is Steve Kennedy. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Brunick, McElhaney, and Beckett, and our office serves as general counsel to the Hallandale Community Services District. The CSD opposes both the certification of the EIR and approval of the general plan update as it relates to the northern expansion area. Under CEQA, the preparation and review of an EIR must be coordinated in a timely fashion with other affected public entities through interagency consultation. However, Victorville has not adequately attempted to receive environmental impact input from all interested entities such as the HCSD. Victorville never circulated the notice of preparation to the HCSD. Victorville never circulated the public notice of availability of the EIR to the HCSD within the time frame required by CEQA. In fact, HCSD did not receive a copy of the notice of availability until September 25th, a day after the Planning Commission recommended adoption of the EIR and approval of the project, and only 4 business days before the end of the public comment period. As a result, HCSD requested that Victorville grant HCSD an extension of time to submit comments to the EIR. However, both legal city staff and city attorney rejected that request. By failing to actively involve all interested parties in the determination of the proper scope and substance of the EIR, Victorville has failed to both fulfill its disclosure obligations under CEQA and to provide those agencies, such as HCSD, with an adequate opportunity to ensure the sufficiency of the resulting EIR. Additionally, in response to that, the city maintains in the EIR that HCSD accepted the proposed land use designations contemplated by the project by virtue of a letter written by Milo Stormo on December 12, 2005. December 12, 2005. The HCSD was not even formed until November of 2006, a full year after the letter from Mr. Stormo. It's inconceivable to me that a letter from a private citizen could somehow be binding upon a public agency, especially when it was written before that agency was even formed. Additionally, it's inconceivable to me, as a public law attorney practicing in this area for 19 years, that the Planning Commission can recommend in good faith that the EIR be adopted and the project be approved when its consideration of both occurred before the expiration of the very public comment review period that it established. Clearly, the Planning Commission could not have possibly considered all of the relevant information available to it at the time of its recommendation, unless it doesn't consider the public input to be relevant to the decision-making process.
Mr. Kennedy, if you would continue your thought, please, your time is up.
Can I have a little bit more time?
Always finish your thought.
Okay, thanks. One of the things that I also wanted to mention was that the CSD believes that the document is procedurally defective because it was not prepared by city staff but by a consultant. In the response to my comments, that consultant exhibited an alarming lack of attention to the points that were being raised. In fact, the response referred to me twice as Mr. Squire. If this is reflective of the level of effort given by the city's consultants to the analysis and the environmental impact of the project, then the EIR is clearly flawed, and the city should exercise its own independent judgment as required by CEQA and reject certification.
Okay, Mr. Kennedy, I will give your card to our attorney, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next card I have is Stanley Hoffman.
Brandon.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. I'm Stanley Hoffman. I'm a consultant to the Hellendale
Like
CSD.
the slide of the northern sphere expansion area.
And I prepared a municipal service review that was presented to LAFCO on September 25th. That was when we discovered that the draft EIR was circulated, and then we subsequently got a copy the next day. I wrote a response, and I brought some copies. My limited time, I'm just going to summarize a few points, and I was hoping they would pull the map up. I have 3 maps in the memo.
All the screens, Brandon? My screen.
Okay. Great, thank you very much. First of all, map number 1, which is not up there, which is this particular map, shows that Hellendale is also proposing for about 74% of this northern expansion area, roughly where that little notch on the bottom, it's hard to point it out because it's not up there, but it's about 74% of the upper area. Their expansion of their service district, that's a proposed amendment before LAFCO now, so there would be a conflict there. But the other issue that I wanted to point out is in my memo I've compared the county's general plan with the Victorville general plan, and there's some substantial urbanization differences. If you notice in the upper left-hand corner of the northern expansion area, that's a gray area. The bulk of the light industrial is shown up there. According to the city's documents, that's about 24, I believe that's 24 million square feet. That's a huge amount of industrial. They also have some commercial along the river, the Mojave River, which is the green area, and then of course the brown is the residential. So essentially what they've done is turn the county general plan on its head, essentially urbanized that northern area, which is under the county plan, which is figure 3 in my memo. It shows that that's both resource conservation, rural living, and an open space. So what you have there is essentially a major urbanization. The other issue, of course, that translates to about 40,000 jobs, is which I have calculated. I understand the need for jobs, but I'm not sure that's the right place for that many jobs.
Mr. Hoffman, if you please finish your thought, your time is up.
Just one other point I wanted to make, just take 1 second. I did do a calculation of the traffic, and the traffic consultant of your EIR project did give me some numbers. Using his numbers, it would be an additional 90,000 trips a day. I've actually calculated more, and that's a tremendous amount of load in an area that's a riparian valley and not slated for that much development under the general plan. So in conclusion, we're very strongly concerned about the level of urbanization, and also we're concerned about the overlap with the proposed Hellendale CSD expansion area. Thank you.
Mr. James Squire.
Pro Tem, members of the council. I'm James Squire. I'm the Deputy Director in Land Use Services for the County of San Bernardino. We had submitted a letter to your EIR, and we have not received a response. I've been told it's in the mail, but after hearing Mr. Kennedy, maybe he got my letter, since it was addressed to Mr. Squire. I don't know, but we have some issues that the county would like to address on the EIR and on the general plan update itself. And one of our primary concerns is that we are opposed to the extension to the north, the extension of the sphere of influence. One of the primary reasons is that this is an area that has a lot of our mining interest, as has been addressed, and staff has said that you have some revised language from Riverside TXI, which we haven't seen, and we would like to be informed of what that might be, might say, because we're very concerned about the protection of the mining interests in that area, because it's an area that has extensive resources and we think needs to be protected. And the proposed zoning that you have over a lot of the mining is open space, which according to your definition of open space is not consistent, at least in my mind, with mining operations. And so I think that's inconsistent. And also to have your residential near those mining operations is, again, not consistent, because these are operations that need some type of buffering. And I can just see it's just like the airport issue. People move in next to an airport, and then when the noise gets to them, they want the airport to close down or change their operations. The same thing can happen with the mining industry. It has noise, it has dust, all these issues that you're going to get complaints from the residents in those areas for the mining operations, unless you're trying to close the mines down, which I don't think you're trying to do. But it does seem to be inconsistent, and I think it needs to be re-looked at as far as that goes. So the county is opposed to that expansion to the north. There would be tremendous impact to the mining industry, and so we think an economic analysis should be prepared to analyze what those impacts are before you go ahead with this zoning. Mr. Hoffman also spoke about the inconsistency in other areas with the county's zoning, and so I think all that needs to be looked at one more time, because this is an intensification of the uses and intensity of development. The last issue that I'd like to address is the water issue, since it has been brought up so far. In your EIR, you have several statements. One of them says, even with conservation, a serious shortfall could occur in as little as 10 years. Another statement says that currently pumping beyond the safe yield of the aquifer, current pumping beyond safe yield of the aquifer to meet the water demand, that you're currently doing it already. And yet with intense development, you make a statement in here, a finding that the water impact or the adverse impacts will be less than significant. Somehow that doesn't compute in our mind, and so we'd like to get that issue resolved as well. And I see my time is up.
Yes, it is.
I thank you for your concern.
Thank you.
Excuse me, wait a minute. Did you make this presentation to the Planning Commission?
I wasn't aware of it at that time. No, I did not.
You're bringing up all these issues now.
Well, that's one thing that we're concerned about, too, is that the Planning Commission heard these things prior to the comment period being over. And that was one of our concerns that Mr. Kennedy
Did you work with the County Planning Department?
Yes.
Didn't we have 2 hearings at Planning Commission?
Yeah.
The last hearing, I understand, was on September 24th, and the hearing, and that's another question. On their slide up there, you had September 29th for the comment period to be over. Another one I had of October 1st, and on the document itself, I think it said October 2nd. So we weren't quite sure when the comment period was actually over, but so no, I did not get to the Planning Commission.
Okay. Any other?
Yeah, just one question. Have you brought all this information up to your first district supervisor?
Yes, we have.
You have. He's aware of it all?
Excuse me?
He's aware of it all?
Yes, he is.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have another card from J. Hill Case. Or CASS, C-A-S-S. I think he went home. The last card I have is Mr. Eckhart again. This is, thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much. Okay. Yes. I'm sorry? Snyder, I went through every one of these. Let me take. Well, come on up and give me your name. I'm sorry? No, that's right. Just give us your name, please, and make it clear so we can have it for the record.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Amon and the fellow members of the council. My name is Craig Schneider. I'm the president of the Hellendale Community Services District. I appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening regarding the proposed adoption of the environmental document regarding the Victorville General Plan update. We are compelled to read our comments into the record because we did not receive notification of the comment period. It came to our attention that the draft environmental document was supposedly circulated for review and comment from August 15 to September 29, 2008. However, the Hellendale Community Service District was not notified until a Development Review Committee meeting at LAFCO on September 25, 2008. Furthermore, the Victorville Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on September 24 and recommended that the City Council certify the document. This recommendation was recommended prior to the close of the public comment period, an act that it does not provide complete transparency to the public. Most importantly, if the sphere is approved with the pre-zoning that is designated in this environmental document, the public may not be afforded the opportunity to comment through the CEQA process on a project-by-project basis. The potential exists that upon adoption of this document, all projects consistent with the proposed zoning will be adopted with a negative declaration and not subject to the full CEQA process, thereby denying the residents of the affected area any due process on a project-by-project basis. Lastly, approximately 75% of Victorville's northern expansion area is also included in the Hellendale CSD proposed sphere of influence. We support the current rural and industrial land use designations that the County of San Bernardino has in this area, which maintains rural living, mining, and resource conservation, components integral to the lifestyle of the riparian corridor. We likewise support the creation of jobs and industry in the high desert, but not at the exclusion of our natural resources and the quality of life. The Hellendale Community Service District respectfully requests that you do not adopt the EIR or approve the general plan update with the pre-zoning as specified in that document. And I thank you very much for your time this evening.
Okay, did I miss anyone else's card? You did turn in a card? Okay. Come on up. Just give us your name, please.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. My name is Marie Mack, and I'm the attorney for Spring Valley Lake Association. I'm not going to repeat the points I made in my letter that is part of the record, and I appreciate the council's gesture tonight, evidently exempting the controversial parcel that my residents have been objecting to, and we're really looking forward to being heard additionally should that matter come before this council and planning commission again. I think you see that we have a lot of concerns. I want to give the council a preview of what may be facing us in terms of Walmart's lack of responsiveness. I want to express to the council that myself, Mr. Osmar Castro, Jerry Lawrence, our president, some of our board members, our chief of security, met with a team from Walmart many months ago to discuss all of the concerns that you've heard here tonight and many others in great detail. And we followed that up with written correspondence and asked them for very specific feedback and sharing of information as to what their plan was to attempt to mitigate these concerns. Because truly, this is really, really important issue to our community. And I want to tell you that after that gesture on our part, all I got back was a little printed PR envelope from Walmart saying, thanks from your public relations team. Just blew us off, no feedback whatsoever. And I just want to plant that seed with the council because I think a lot more is required from someone that wants to make an impact like that next to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Did I miss anyone else? Did you speak before? No. You didn't speak before? Okay. Come on up and give us your name, please. Mr. Smith, is your name Mr. Smith? Yes. You did speak. I have your card here.
No.
I have it right here. Yeah, that's all right. Go ahead.
Anyway, my name is Jeffrey Smith. I live in Spring Valley Lake. Most of my friends and neighbors are looking forward to shopping at the new Walmart Supercenter. I believe, unfortunately, some folks equate the new store with the old Walmart on Bear Valley Road. If you've ever visited other Walmarts, you'll see that all Walmarts are not the same. A Walmart bashing website called Wake Up Walmart also shows that Walmarts are not alike. The same website, who quotes a 2004 study of calls of service from the local police, indicate that of the 460 Walmarts in the study, calls of service varied between 5 and 1,875 per store, the average being 269. The website also indicated that 97% of the calls were of a non-serious or non-violent nature. The study also shows that most of the 460 Walmarts had little or no serious or violent crime. Also of the reported calls...
No, shh.
This is my fans. Also of the reported calls, approximately 80% were for service in the parking lot. As an example of the difference between stores, the 2004 study indicated that the old Walmart on Bear Valley Road had 32 serious or violent incidents, while the Apple Valley store had 9 incidents. In other words, you can't claim a comparison between the new Supercenter and the old Walmart. I read that when the Walmart across the street from the mall is completed, the old store will be closed, but not before a new tenant is found for the old building. With a new business in the old building and the parking lot remaining, why would criminals travel 4 miles to the new store close to Spring Valley Lake? Or if you believe that the criminals like Walmart so much, why wouldn't they just move to the new Walmart just across the freeway? Or the new store on Palmdale? Or the new store in Hesperia? Next, opponents of Walmart tell us that the location of the Supercenter is inappropriate because of its proximity to schools. However, opponents never say why. Nothing is more important than the safety of our children. However, I've been able to find any connection between Walmart, the safety of our children, while in school. The schools in the neighborhood of the new Supercenter appear to be a fairly closed environment.
Mr. Smith, please
By that,
finish your thought.
I mean that the schools provide supervision for the children, fences. Most of the children seem to arrive and depart school in buses and autos. I don't see any young children walking towards the location of the new Supercenter, and the college provides security for its students.
Mr. Smith, please finish
I
your
don't
thought.
believe that...
Please finish your thought. Your time is up.
Pardon me?
Please complete your thought.
Oh, you were talking to me. I'm sorry. Okay. I don't believe that the insinuation that somebody would travel from Walmart to a nearby school in order to bring harm to a child just because that someone is standing in the parking lot at Walmart. Finally, I know that at times and places Bear Valley Road is crowded. However, I suspect that with the downturn in the economy, the Yucca-Loma Green Tree Bypass Road will probably be finished long before the Supercenter is built. With these two new routes leaving Spring Valley Lake, we won't care what the traffic is like on Bear Valley Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, with that, would you like to say something, Chris?
Yes, if I might clarify a couple of the points that were raised. With regard to the northern sphere of expansion, it is a proposal that's before LAFCO. It is not being approved by the council tonight. We merely provided the analysis for that to go before LAFCO. Mr. Squire's comments, we did respond to them. We mailed it out. If we will make sure that it gets to the right address. Those comments, his letter and comments we did have those, and we did respond to those, and he does raise valid points. The issue with open space being over the mining, the open space designations that you see on the map before you, we did those based on the West Mojave Plan, which was prepared by the County of San Bernardino Planning Division. That was our best information of where the open space should be in that plan, and that's what we based it on. If this needs to be revised, certainly for mining, like I said, I believe the council supports that, and we do have the language, and I can get it to Mr. Squire tomorrow as well, if you have any other questions.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Oh, I didn't close the public hearing. I'm sorry. I need to close the public hearing right now on item B.
4B through E.
4B through E?
E, correct.
Okay, E is end, thank God. Okay.
Just a question. The site that was carved out of the general plan, what happens to that?
It will go back to the previous designations and zoning that it had before, as it has right now.
As it is right now.
As it is right now.
Any other questions or comments?
No, the only comment I have is for the people who live in Spring Valley Lake who are still here, and actually the one lady that mentioned it, I, for one, and I know the rest of this council, do listen to you. We care what you say. We care what everybody in the city says and the surrounding cities, because we affect each other. So just so you know, we do. And we wouldn't be making these kind of decisions. These are not easy decisions to make. We have a lot of constituents to think about. We have a lot of citizens to think about who are, so like the gentleman here, there's people out there that want a Walmart over there. We have people that don't want a Walmart over there. So we have to weigh everything. I've met with Mr. Eckert, and Mr. Eckert knows that I don't make a decision until I have everybody come to this dais and make your comments. And that goes with everything I do in this job. So I'm glad we're doing this. The bad part is you're going to be back again. But again, you're going to be back on just that issue, and we're not going to have to hold up this whole process. So I just want you to let everyone know we do listen to you.
I echo Mr. Hunter. That's one thing we do. And we try and please everyone, which is impossible. And I am raising a grandchild, which goes to the college. So my concerns are the same as everybody else's. So with that, we will go ahead and take a vote on, here we go again, help me, Andre, B1?
I would, yes, if you want to try and combine them, because you have ordinances before you.
Can I just read out the resolution numbers?
Well, the resolution numbers are fine, and you can just take a vote on each resolution, but on the ordinances, the clerk has to read the title, and then you have to have a motion to waive further reading and introduce at the same time, so.
Okay. Can we just go ahead and approve the resolutions
yes,
now, real quick?
And my understanding is that every one of these approval is going to be subject to the property designated by Mr. Borchett being eliminated from the approvals, correct? And that is going to be the same on all the motions, so it's clear on the record.
Okay, so real quick, I'm going to just read off the resolution number, and then we will vote on the resolutions. And then our city clerk, Marcy, will read the ordinances. Okay. One is resolution number 08-151. The next one is Resolution number 08149.
Wait a minute, what about 150? Bottom of the page.
A resolution number?
Yes, number 2, B2.
I'm sorry.
What might be helpful is if you do A, B, C separately, so if we do B, and then you have a motion to adopt Resolution 08151 and 08150, you can handle those two together,
Okay,
again with staff's recommendation.
right. Okay, with that,
Make the motion for approval of those two resolutions.
Second.
we have a first and a second. May we vote? Okay, motion carries. Okay, D.
You are now on B3, and you need the clerk to read ordinance number 2222.
Ordinance number 2222, an ordinance of the City of Victorville approving the pre-zoning of the area referenced as Mountain View Acres North, consisting of approximately 277 acres within the city's sphere of influence, to R-1B1 single-family residential, minimum lot size of 1 acre, with such zoning to take effect upon annexation and annexation to the applicable subsidiary districts in effect at the time. City of Victorville.
Move to waive further reading and introduction of ordinance number 2222.
Second.
Carries. Number 4.
Ordinance number 2223, entitled An Ordinance of the City of Victorville approving the pre-zoning of area referenced as Mount View Acres South, consisting of approximately 1,001 acres within the city's sphere of influence, to designate approximately 989 acres to R-1B1 single-family residential, minimum lot size of 1 acre, and R-1B 1/2 single-family residential, minimum lot size of 1/2 acre, and approximately 12 acres of P-C public civic, with such zoning to take effect upon annexation and annexation to the applicable subsidiary districts in effect at the time. City of Victorville.
Move to waive further reading and introduction of ordinance number 2223.
Second.
Motion carries. Ordinance number 2224.
Ordinance number 2224, entitled An Ordinance of the City of Victorville approving the pre-zoning of the area referenced as the Northern Sphere, consisting of approximately 6,862 acres within and outside of the city's sphere of influence, to specific plan with such zoning to take effect upon annexation and annexation to the applicable subsidiary districts in effect at the time. City of Victorville.
Move to waive further reading and introduction of ordinance number 2224.
Second.
Okay, motion carries. Ordinance 2225.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, ordinance number 2225, an ordinance of the City of Victorville approving the pre-zoning of the area referenced as Code Road, consisting of approximately 89 acres within the city's sphere of influence, to pre-zone approximately 75 acres to M1 light industrial and approximately 13 acres to C2 general commercial, with such zoning to take effect upon annexation and annexation to the applicable subsidiary districts in effect at the time. City of Victorville.
Move to waive further reading and introduction of ordinance 2225.
Second.
Clears.
I'm sorry?
I'll do C. Let Rudy do D. Move resolution.
I'm missing 3 votes.
These two together.
You have resolution number 08-149.
Mayor Pro Tem Almond, I'm missing your vote.
You didn't get my vote?
No.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I'll do C.
Okay.
I
Now
move resolution 08149.
Second.
Move introduction of ordinance 22.
Oh, just read it. Ordinance number 2221.
Okay.
It's C.
Ordinance number 2221, an ordinance of the City of Victorville approving PLN 07-00080, the pre-zoning of approximately 2,720 acres within the city's sphere of influence, with such zoning to take effect upon annexation and annexation to the applicable subsidiary districts in effect at the time, City of Victorville.
Introduction of ordinance and waive further reading.
Second.
Okay. D is resolution number 08152.
Move for the motion.
We have a motion and second. And then ordinance number 2228.
Ordinance number 2228, an ordinance of the City of Victorville approving PLN 08-00090 to pre-zone property within the city's sphere of influence as M2 heavy industrial, with such zoning to take effect upon annexation and annexation to the applicable subsidiary districts in effect at the time, Space Center Mariloma Incorporated.
Wait. Move introduction of ordinance number 2228 and waive further reading.
Move.
I don't hear that. I don't hear them saying it in their microphone, Marcy. Right?
Move it.
I'll move it. Okay. The next one is ordinance number 2226.
Mayor Pro Tem, on these ones, again, it should be clear that the Spring Valley Lake adjacent properties are eliminated from all these approvals.
Okay.
Go ahead. Ordinance number 2226, an ordinance of the City of Victorville approving amendment PLN 08-00101, various amendments of the Victorville Municipal Code to Title 17 subdivisions and Title 18 zoning, City of Victorville.
Move to waive further reading and introduction of ordinance number 2226.
Second.
Very good. May we vote?
Get punchy after a while up here.
Yes, you do. The next one is ordinance number 2227.
Ordinance number 2227, an ordinance of the City of Victorville approving various zone changes of the general plan of 2030 update to provide consistency with the general plan 2030 changes and other changes as related to the goals and policies of the general plan 2030, City of Victorville.
Move to waive further reading and introduction of ordinance number 2227.
Second.
And may we vote? Okay, is someone going to go fetch Mr. Caldwell? Yeah.
Been listening.
Thank goodness.
Look fetched.
Welcome back. All yours.
Consent calendar.
Item 5 is the consent calendar. These items have been predetermined to be routine and non-controversial unless there's a request for removal. They'll be adopted as one vote, 5A through O.
So moved.
Second. Is there a second?
Yeah, we had it.
Rudy did.
Unanimous? Item 6 is a request to adopt proposed resolution 08155, which if adopted would adopt the identity theft prevention program. Questions or comments?
Move the item.
Second. Seconded. Unanimous. Item 7, discussion and possible action regarding support of Measure V, which is the Victor Valley Union High School District proposed bond. I discussed this with Lieutenant Julian Weaver, invited him to be here tonight. Julian, I guess we picked the wrong night. I apologize on behalf of my colleagues for putting you through the 3 hours that you've been through.
Thank you, Mayor Caldwell and members of the City Council and city staff. I won't belabor the point, and I won't take a lot of time. All of you are registered voters within the sphere of influence of the Victor Valley Union High School District. You have received numerous communications relative to our Measure B general obligation bond. I will share with you very quickly that it is a $500 million general obligation bond to provide appropriate instructional facilities for our teachers and appropriate learning environments for our students. It affects all 8 of our school sites within the Victor Valley Union High School District, and it also projects out over the year 2015-2006 an additional high school in addition to the new one that we're planning for the Atlanta area somewhere in the northern sphere, and an additional 2 middle schools somewhere in the northern sphere based upon population growth. What I would encourage the board to understand, the council to understand, is that by passing this $500 million general obligation bond, the financial impact upon the economic base for the cities of Victorville, Adelanto, and Hellendale would be very significant. In addition, by supporting the Measure V for the Victor Valley Union High School District, we would be able to leverage an additional $300 million from the State School Building Construction Fund. We have an actual need projected out over the next 15 years of $800 million worth of construction and remodeling. I would also like to remind the board that our school district is the oldest school district in the high desert. If you look at our facilities, Victor Valley Junior High School was built in 1915. The last major modifications to that school was approximately in the years 1960, I believe, and most of those buildings that were constructed on the existing site were 1936 vintage. Victor Valley High School, which I'm a proud graduate of, was opened in 1954, and those facilities are ancient and outdated, and we need to modernize all of those facilities. When you look at Hook Junior High School, that's vintage 1962, and of course the same applies there relative to the adequacy of the facilities. The last thing I'd like to share with the council is that we have demonstrated our own capacity to build new schools without going to the public. As you may or may not be aware, we have 3 new schools that are opening up. 2 are currently opened up, and that's the new Lakeview Middle School and our new Goodwill Education Center. Our 9th grade Silverado High School campus will be opened up over the winter break of this year. Those are examples of the kinds of buildings and the quality of construction that we want to provide. With that, I will close with saying, sharing with you that you have a detailed packet of information at your seat that identifies in a very detailed fashion the work that's going to be done at each one of the sites that's described in that. And lastly, I would like to encourage the City Council to endorse Measure V. I have provided the City Clerk with an endorsement form, and you can either, as a City Council, endorse that, or if you feel that as an individual City Council member that you would like to do that, then I would encourage the City Clerk to make additional copies for you. I'll answer any questions that you might have relative to
questions or comments from members of the Council.
Well, normally I would be opposed to any bonds. I abhor it. But when you look at this state, the state of California, I was born in this state, so as a native Californian, I'm telling you, it's dysfunctional. It is crazy. They have abrogated all responsibility to probably the most important single, short of law enforcement, to the state, education. And this is the only way local government has had a chance to come back and ask the voters in our particular region for some help. We've done it with Measure I. The traffic issue certainly is an example of us double taxing ourselves. There's the good old days when the state used to step in here and build schools. They don't do that anymore. So begrudgingly, I'm supporting it because philosophically, I'm angry that the state is not here doing their job. But since they're not, we're not going to shoot ourselves in the foot for our children. So I do support you, sir.
Very much.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, I just have a couple comments. I am not a believer in bonds either whatsoever. I hate saddling the public with more bills to pay, and right now we can't pay what we've got, a lot of us. There's a lot of people out there on fixed incomes, and they get that more charge on their bills, and it's more to pay. I have a problem with it. I have a problem with the state. This is a state issue. It's not a local issue to me. It's a state issue. They should be taking care of it. They're not taking care of it. I'm really torn with this because I'll be honest with you. I didn't support the college bond. It's another bond. I can't tell you how many bonds are. Everybody's wanting money, and I understand why you need it. The school needs it desperately. I just have a hard time. To me, it's another tax, and it's just more money out of people's pockets that we don't have, and we shouldn't have to fund that all the time. Somebody needs to step up and take care of that. Having said that, I haven't made my decision yet. I'll let you know when I vote.
Other questions or comments?
Comment. I understand the state has failed to provide the funding for the schools, and so it comes back to the local community here to support these measures. And I supported it years ago when you did the first one, and I'm prepared to support it again because we can't wait for the state to come in and help us out because they're not. And so what do? We have to make a decision here, and the voters will ultimately make that decision for all of us.
Other questions or comments? Well, I'm going to, much like Councilman Rothschild, and very reluctantly support it. Problem that I have is that we are kind of at a point of no return if we do not invest educational process for the kids in our community. Community will deteriorate. Those of us involved in trying to recruit business and industry to our community in order to create jobs and enhance economic opportunity are constantly asked by the site selectors for major corporations to address the issue of the quality of schools. Like Julian, I've been here a long time. Schools were great when they were built. They are falling apart. Just as many city facilities would fall apart if we didn't invest the money to upgrade them. I don't like bonds. I think that under normal circumstances I would vote no. But I can't on the one hand go out and represent the 107,000 people and try to recruit business and industry and then say, but I don't give a damn about the quality of the educational structure, infrastructure. Those two don't fit very well. So I'm going to support your proposed resolution number 0901, and I'm going to urge the council to swallow a painful pill and side with good education in the city of Victorville.
In closing, these are very hard economic times, and we all recognize that. I have 4 operational tenets that I lead my district by, and I won't go into all 4 of them, but I will say the one that I think is really applicable to encouraging you to support this bond. And that operational tenet is to make a deposit or an investment in a student's emotional bank each day. By us not having paid attention in the past, and by now having the opportunity to do that relative to our facilities, we are making a huge investment in our students' emotional banks in this district. We have 10,600 kids in our district, and we expect that that will increase incrementally, particularly in the next 2 years when we anticipate that the population and housing market will boom again. So we need to be prepared to deal with that, and I would encourage you to support Measure V. Thank you very much for your time, Mayor Caldwell and the council. I know you've had a long night. I know how these meetings go.
We've got a long way.
I know you're not, but I am. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further questions or comment? If not, a motion would be in order.
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. May we vote? Passes unanimously. I just want to make one further comment. Many of you know, but maybe not all of you, Julian is a local boy who made good and came home. You've heard me say many, many times that one of the things that's important for us in our decision-making capacity is to create economic opportunity so when our children graduate from high school and go off to college, find out what they're going to do with their lives, that there's a reason for them to want to return home, that there's a job and an opportunity to come back home. And Julian's one of those guys that went off and did well, extraordinarily well, and he came home. And I think all of us who have children hope that there will be a reason for kids to come home. And I'm proud of Julian. I've known him since he was a puppy. It's too bad that Victorville couldn't fill good football teams to whip Barstow, but other than that, and someday I'll share with the council how you got your nickname of Juki. All right. We'll go on to agenda item 8, which is a request to accept the assignment and assumption agreements from SAI and authorize the city engineer to execute said agreements.
Move the item.
Second.
Unanimous. Items 9 and 10 are interrelated. I'm going to take them together. They deal with the eminent domain issue for the properties that have been enumerated in the agenda. And the issue before the council is to authorize city staff and city attorney to go forward with the commencement of the eminent domain action in the Superior Court of San Bernardino County.
Mayor Caldwell, I would ask actually that you take them separately because we should provide the property owner with an opportunity to be heard on each, and they may be separate and have separate issues.
Well, we'll act on them separately, but I've got a card, got 2 cards asking to speak on agenda item 9. These are not public hearing items, but we will afford an opportunity to those in the audience who wish to speak, and I have the card first from Gregory Hubbard, I believe.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Gregory Hoberg. I work for Eagle Mobile Home Center. Our company was started over 34 years ago, and we have always been in San Bernardino County. In 1997, we had the opportunity to locate in the middle of Victorville next to the I-15 freeway, one of the best locations in the state. We chose this location because it was visible and ideal for our business. Since opening there, let me back up a second. Our company sells manufactured homes. Our business still isn't what it was a couple years ago, but it still remains strong. We've sold 6 houses so far this month, which is a major accomplishment in this market. We sell energy efficient and green homes. They're affordable homes. Since we opened there in 1997, because we offer these types of homes, and through the hard work of our employees, which are all local people, and our subcontractors, we've been honored with 8 straight customer satisfaction awards through our industry associations. And in 2007, we were awarded the Retailer of the Year in California, which is our industry association's highest honor at this location. I applaud the City Council's efforts that I read about in the paper to create jobs through their hard work. But I would ask this council to move towards the High Desert Corridor or the Green Tree Boulevard and Yucca project as a more viable option, and to leave our business intact at this location, as the city's needs and the entire High Desert's needs when it comes to traffic has changed over the 30 years since the Nisqually Road was first proposed as an overpass only.
Questions or comments from members of the council?
You're asking us to abandon the Nisqually Interchange project? Is that what you're basically saying here, that you...
You know, I've never heard directly from the city as long as we've been there. Over the years, I've looked at the options that were laid out, that were published over here at the engineering department, and I always thought there was a way that we could live together. The option that they've chose destroys our property and our location and our business. And there's people that work there, and there's people that buy homes there. There's people that still buy homes there that can't buy a $300,000 or $400,000 home. No, I'm not suggesting anything like that, but, you know, you guys work so hard to create jobs up here. There's jobs there that I have to protect. There's families that depend on those checks, especially now. And there's people that would like to buy a home that are our customers. That location is one of the best ones around. This project was started a long time ago. And I don't dispute, you know, traffic and things that you guys work on. Neither does anybody at the company. Probably very few people do. But that's where our business is. And there's got to be a way that we can all live together. There's been a mobile home, manufactured home dealership at that location since 1956. I can't take our company and go somewhere else and experience the things that offers us. It's impossible. That's 52 years that there's been a mobile home dealer on that spot, well before this project was started, and I don't see where there's not a way everyone can live together, personally, and neither does anyone at the company.
Well, everybody else, I mean, the federal government basically and the state kind of dictate what pattern, you know, we had to pick. You know, we've submitted 4 projects or designs, features, and we weren't the final arbitrators to that. Having said that, they come down and we've tried to work with you a bit, and there's no way for you to move in a different spot up and down the freeway, even though you've been there a long time. The growth that we've had here, you know, this council doesn't take eminent domain lightly. It's a hard decision, but when it comes to the basic traffic flow that we have for 100,000 in here and basically 500,000 people for the Victor Valley, that spot has to be dealt with, and it's been considered every which way to Sunday, and there's nothing you can do to find another spot up the freeway. I know we help move all of you, everybody that we bump into in this fashion.
This is a standing, existing lot. If you move somewhere else, and I'm not a planning expert, but we do some business here in town just with single-family homes, if you could find another spot that affords what we have there, the development cost on another spot, even in this market where prices have come down a little or whatever, on-site construction, off-site construction, everything to do to get through planning, none of that's come down. That's all gone up over the years. You know, I'm proud of our company because our company, during the great housing boom, we did well, and we put that money away. And that's the reason we were able to buy the location that we were at, to protect our business. We bought it when it was offered for sale to us. We didn't wait or whatever. It took quite a chunk of change when we bought it to protect the business, because our business is a long-term investment. That's why we got in there in the first place. The average age of our company is not all that old. You know, the average age there is probably under 40 years old, but they all have families. There's very little affordable housing left, and I hate to see what a move would do in the current environment, because people get used to you being at a spot, just like City Hall's here, or whatever. People get used to that. That's worth everything in the world, because there's only so many people left in the housing business, and any little thing to upset the apple cart in today's market, kill a company. It's happening all over the state. Bigger, more well-funded companies than ours. I'm not going to say better, because I think we're the best around. But we chose Victorville, and I've never, in talking to the land company that you guys deal with, when I say you guys, I mean the whole city, whoever's in charge of that, you know, since they started coming around, all they say is, well, you might as well sell out, because they're going to take you to eminent domain anyway, and that's not truly good faith negotiations. That's sell out now, or they're going to take you to eminent domain, and you're going to lose anyway. So you might as well sell out now. And they are very proper people. They speak very eloquently. They speak better than I do. But that's the underlying tone that we get every time that we come in contact with that company, because I'm the one that speaks to them. They've never offered any solution. The gal is really nice. Her name's Debbie. She's the most polite lady in the whole world. But the message always is, this is coming, sell out now, or they will take you eminent domain, and you will lose. That's really the extent of the conversations until very, very, very recently, like within the last 2 weeks, whenever this hit the agenda. So I thought I would come, and you know, that place has been there so long, you guys probably forget it's there. We sell a lot of homes, we generate a lot of sales tax, and we sell homes that people can actually buy and pay for. We don't have subprime loans, never have. Foreclosure rate on our product in this valley, there's 2 that have appeared this year. 2. I think it's a pretty important business, and I think there's got to be a better approach to this.
Let me ask you a question. Did you attend any of the meetings where they had the presentations of the different alignments for the Nisqually overpass?
No, I tried to, because I have permits and stuff that we have to do here through the course of our business, I tried to just watch the maps through engineering.
Okay.
I didn't see if there was a meeting that said, this is it. I didn't catch it.
Mr. McGlade, how many meetings did we have at the church over there for the overpass? 3 or 4? Yeah, there was at least 3 meetings of the church right at catty corner from you over there, and you must have got a notice because you were within the range of those meetings to go over the alignments in detail.
It might have been noticed to the previous owner. We were only afforded the opportunity to buy the property 1 year ago. We've been leasing it. Perhaps it was the, you know, the initial designs that I saw way back when, and we could have all lived together very easily, you know, before they decided to disconnect Mariposa Road and all the things that are involved. I mean, this is an involved project. I'm sure it's a monumental project.
It's very monumental.
Yeah, and I don't question that. All I know is we still have a viable business, and if you move it and we lose it, these are much better than blue-collar jobs. These are good jobs. These are worth me coming here and speaking to you folks on behalf of the people, myself, and everybody else that works there, the subs, everybody else is still able to keep groceries on the table, and that's an accomplishment these days in the building industry or the new home industry, however you want to call it. So
my concern is here, this has been going on for years, and the alignment process has been going on for years. Gotten to a point where the government approves our alignment process, and all of a sudden you're here now instead of being in this process earlier. Why, I don't know. Maybe you didn't get the notice as not the owner, but somehow leasing the property, someone should have told you what was going on or should have kept more in tune with it. But this has been a public comment issue for years, and we've now got it to a point where the government says, okay, that's the alignment you can use. We can't stop this process now. It would take us another 15, 20 years, and we can't afford that. That's the bottom line. We can't afford to lose this where we are right now. We have got to continue with Nisqually Overpass. Traffic's horrendous, as everyone tells us, and if we were to say, just because of your one business, which I hate for you to lose, to stop that process would be horrendous to us.
the jobs and the services that we offer are something that you guys, and I don't know if it's you, I just know what I read in the paper, that you guys spend millions of dollars, of your dollars, that the city all generates to try and cultivate, to try to bring in. You know, affordable housing, green housing, those are all big pushes too. So there's got to be a better way. I mean, what has come to us through Epic Land, not very neighborly. It's polite. It's polite.
Further questions or comments of Hubbard? Before you leave, I just want to ask one question of City Engineer. Mr. McGlade, who made the final decision on the alignment? I know that at one point we looked at, I think, as many as 6 footprints that were imposed on us by Caltrans, but I don't know what the final selection process was.
All of the alternatives that have been taken, added some more.
How long have we been in that process, the footprint process? Thank you.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Since, you know, if I go a little longer, I could say good morning before I leave, but.
I'll still be here.
You know, I understand what you guys all say. Ma'am, you also.
Right.
Project, I don't know the exact date, but I read it in the Dusty Files in the Daily Press, is 30 years old. That's, and again, it's a monumental project. But with all the things that have to happen, all the land that's got to be acquired, the roads that have got to be routed behind us, I guess that would be to the east and all that, why does this have to happen now? In the middle of the worst housing bust the state's ever seen, as far as I know. That's where we all come from.
Well, I understand the spirit of the question, and just let me say that project has been around for a long time. It has moved slowly, but we have gone through the process that's imposed on us by the state and by the federal people. If we would have had our druthers, we would have moved long ago to have that interchange built. But we weren't in control of the timelines. So that's the best answer I can give you. You know, I've been here for a long time, and I know where your spot is, and very familiar with it. Without this piece of property, we can't go forward. And scrap the millions of dollars that have been invested in this, I think, very difficult, and there's no guarantee that it'll be any different. In fact, when you look at the alignments that are there and the property acquisitions and the right-of-way, not an engineer, I suspect that it probably couldn't be redone in a way to accommodate your business and leave it there. And if we're wrong, that's what the eminent domain procedure is all about. I see that you have Mr. Wilson here representing you.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Thank you.
I would indicate for the record that Mr. Wilson has submitted a formal request to appear as the attorney representing Craig, excuse me. Representing the Eagle Mobile Home Center, Inc.
Mayor Pro Tem, council members, thank you for listening to me on this late evening. This is with regards to Eagle Mobile Home Center, who is my client. My name is Craig Wilson. I think Greg Holberg has done a much better job than I'm going to be able to do at telling you the facts and the history. And as you know, We do need to at least present our position to you so that you're aware of it. And number one, the location is essential to my client. Freeway visibility, 200 feet directly adjacent to the freeway there, as well as line of sight for both directions of traffic from the current location. Existing location that's been there for numerous years, and a previous owner had that location. Andy and Sons was the prior company that operated there in the same type of business, and that is essential to their success and essential to the value of the property and what's being taken. So we would formally object to the termination of the necessity under the terms herein due to the strong negative effect it will have on my client's business. We don't believe that the public interest and necessity would adequately require this resolution. We don't believe the planning and development, as well as the structure that's being designed there and the taking of the property adequately minimizes what's being done, that it's in a manner that's consistent with the greatest public good at that location. And we don't believe that our particular property in question is absolutely necessary for this project, and we would strongly request that you not approve the motion before you.
Questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, those are the only cards I had, and they were on number 9. Council, we have before us proposed resolution number 08157, which, if adopted, would declare the intent of the City of Victorville to acquire the subject property by eminent domain and direct council to commence an action. Superior Court of San Bernardino County. Questions or comments?
Mayor Court, I just point out that you do have before you a full staff report, and it addresses the public need and the necessity for acquiring this property.
Move the item.
Seconded. That is unanimous. I just want to say to Mr. Hoberg that I hope through this process we can find a way to work with you and to keep your company here and to keep it prosperous, vital. This council doesn't like eminent domain. Don't like the disruptions that it causes. While the legal process will start its way, I would hope that as people look at this, they can maybe find ways to accommodate one another. And as you said, there was something at some point that, at least to you, appeared like maybe you could, all of us get together, and I would encourage you to redouble those efforts. We'd like not to lose you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm not aware of any necessity that upon acquisition of the property that the property would have to be vacated at the time of acquisition. The property could still be occupied and the business operated up until the time of actual construction of the interchange required the property to be vacated.
That's a good point, and with the difficulties in the national economy and the state economy and the regional economy, obviously can't be constructed till funding's in place. Roberts raises a very, very good point, and we have suffered some roadblocks from a funding standpoint because of the decisions associated with Sandbag. But the spirit of this council and the staff that implement that spirit is to work with you every which way we can. Agenda item 10 is a similar item. It's a request to move forward with eminent domain on the parcels of property set forth in the staff report and in the agenda item. And I have no cards indicating anyone here to speak on agenda item number 10 that I will inquire to see if there is any such interest. Seeing none, Council, we have proposed Resolution Number 158, which, if adopted, would proceed with the eminent domain proceedings and direct staff and council to start the process in the San Bernardino County Superior Court.
So moved.
That's unanimous. Item 11, a presentation of reports from council members. Councilman Cabriales. Alman. Hunter. Councilman Rothschild. I have 3 items. First, I want to report that Councilman Cabriales and Councilman Rothschild and I attended the NAACP banquet awards dinner last Friday night. And many very complimentary things about this city, about the direction of the city, about the future of the city were made by the the keynote speaker, Reverend Denson. He clearly, strongly, Mark Taylor was there. I think Mark would agree with my comments. The positive things that he said about the direction of this city to a very, very large assemblage of people were really surprising. If you were to match what was said in that event with what is published in the daily press on a regular basis, you would think you were in 2 different planets. Absolutely astounding. And the conclusion of that, City of Victorville was presented, a great shock to me, lifetime membership in the NAACP to the City of Victorville, as well as a very nice medallion thanking us for our support. And I left those in the city manager's office if you take time to take a look at it. I wish you all could have been there. I think you would have been proud of yourself. The second thing I want to mention is that our city attorney has a nickname. I just found out about it over the weekend. His nickname is Pick, E-I-C. And because it's Mr. D. Bortonowski's nickname, I'll leave it to Mr. D. Bortonowski if he wishes to share with the council how and why he got that nickname. But I just thought it important that I share with you that he has a nickname.
It's been a lot easier than the real name that you run around with.
I don't think it deserves further comment.
Oh, why? I'd like to hear it.
Find out anyway, you might as well tell us.
That's right. Stands for person in charge.
Oh, I like it.
And it was taken actually from a supermarket checker who had it on their badge, and the comment was made that that would suit me as well. So,
Very good.
Pick.
Good.
All right, that concludes the formal agenda. We will now go into what appears to be a very lengthy and intense.
May I call for the record, on item number 10, there was a clerical change on a parcel number. Just for the record, I'd like it to reflect that item number 10 pertained to parcel number 3092 as opposed to 3093, 291-12.
Okay. We will go into closed session. I'll invite the council and appropriate senior staff into closed session for items 12 through 16. It is not anticipated that there will be any reportable action. However, I can't guarantee that. You're welcome to stay if you want, and if you choose to leave, we will not be offended if we come out and find that there is a vacant room. And this meeting, when we conclude the closed session, will be concluded, and the next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday night, November the 4th, 7 p.m. These chambers. And before the department heads leave, I would hope that those of you who've been around a long time will take the younger, less senior folks under your wing and explain to them that on election night, we do not anticipate having long, lengthy agenda items with long, lengthy staff presentations.
Or closed session.
Yeah, closed session isn't a good thing either.
Yeah, good.
I'll call the council meeting back to order at the conclusion of our closed session. We do have one reportable action, and I will ask the city attorney to read into the record the reportable action.
City Council approved entering into a purchase and sale agreement with Shears for parcel number 0459033262 for a purchase price of $74,910.
That concludes the reportable action. And that concludes the council meeting. Good night.